This is the D6 generation with your hosts Craig Gallant,
little thing I like to call a joke,
Russ Wakeland. I'd put the little white handkerchief on my head and go, "Oh, my brain hurts!" And Rafe Hollywood Granger.
HD is in the house.
With contributions from our lovely wives.
He cheated, cheater, Russ. You guys have to know the rules before you play him.
And our loyal listeners.
Drago, we made you out of steel.
Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire, the roundtable discussion of all things gaming, coming at you with a speed of +3 spiked boots of ass kickery. Tonight's edition is brought to you by Gamer Interface. Happy to work with another great podcast host who sends his heartfelt shout out to everyone in his Thursday night gaming group. A great gang of friends putting games through their paces each and every week who know in their hearts that Jeff can't help but write really long run-on sentences because he just has so much to say. I'm Geekly McNerdigan, your host. Today, as always, our panelists are Russ, vegetarian doppelgangers Wakeland, and Rafe, Scientologist druids Granger. Let's begin.
What?
Issue number 1. Starting as the Pepsi Pavilion at the 1964-65 World's Fair in New York, then titled Children of the World, and then being transferred to Disneyland in 1966, the ride known as It's a Small World has been entertaining children and boring adults for over 40 years. Woo. With the creepy amorphous children flashing their rictus grins over the ever-churning waters, the accompanying song is one of, if not the most translated and performed song in history. This week, Days of Wonder tries to end this era of tyranny with the release of its new game, Small World. Question: what other amusement park ride or attraction would make the best new game? Rafe, help me from down under. Give me the Mountain of Thunder.
You travel on a bolt with molten lava with warjacks.
Russ, don't be a buffoon. It's Typhoon Lagoon.
It's Pirates of the Caribbean for 100.
Interesting. Rafe, you're obviously so correct, it makes me want to weep. Who could ever doubt that molten lava and jacks would make a great game? Good job, Hollywood. On the other hand, Russ, wrong!
What?
Issue number 2. In 210 BC, Qin Shi Huangdi, first emperor of United China, was buried in his massive mausoleum guarded by over 8,000 life-size clay warriors, chariots, and cavalrymen arrayed as if ready for battle. This terracotta army is now one of the most visited sites in China outside of Beijing, and people around the world marvel at the serried ranks of lifelike warriors prepared to defend their emperor in the afterlife. Any gamer with their name would envy any man powerful enough to take such a collection fully painted into the afterlife. Question: what life-size force would be best to be buried with you to guard you against the depredations of the underworld? Russ, no Big Mac, it's a Jack Attack.
Oh, it's definitely a Warjack or 3.
Rafe, who needs armor with a legion of farmers?
It would be a full-size Space Marine replica that you see outside the Games Workshop stores.
Well, I'll be damned. What are the chances?
Oh, man, it's
Hollywood
rigged.
gets it right again.
Yes!
Indeed, life-size Space Marines would be the ideal force to take with you. Russ, on the other hand, is wrong again. Issue number 3. On August 25th, 1921, Monty Halperin was born in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Later performing under the stage name Monty Hall as the host of Let's Make a Deal, Halperin's name lives on in gamer terminology long after the rest of civilization has left him in the dust. A Monty Hall campaign, as everyone knows, is a campaign in which all the characters have to do is open doors, fight monsters, and collect treasure, over and over and over again. Although complaints of Monty Hall campaigns resound throughout the RPG community, quite often when all is said and done, this is what most gamers secretly crave, and they get antsy if given anything else. Question: what is the best door-style monster and treasure sequence in any Monty Hall campaign? Russ, studded with brass, the door kicks ass!
Oh, yeah, it's open door, kill dragon, collect +5 Holy Avenger.
Rafe, a bag of holdings worth most golding!
Nah, he's ridiculous. It's open door, slime falls on your head, you burn it with a torch, inside is a jewel.
Wow.
No way!
Hollywood is correct again. What are the chances of him putting together that exact combination? I mean, what are the chances of a normal mortal doing so? Hollywood, of course, does not follow the rules of mortal man. Russ, however, sadly is mortal and thus wrong. Issue number 4. When one studies literature or storytelling, one cannot escape the study of archetypes, or the original pattern or model from which all things of the same type are copied or on which they are based, a model, or first form, or prototype. For instance, we all know that orcs are mean, smelly, green creatures that serve evil and pillage the lands of men, or ogres are slow and stupid, but mean and strong. In fact, archetypes are so prevalent in fantasy and sci-fi, many authors don't even bother to describe their characters anymore beyond the standard race and class descriptions, knowing that their audience will make certain judgments and formulate certain images based on those words alone. Question: what is the most powerful and prevalent archetype in fantasy? Rafe, a pirate with a parrot. Wouldn't mind to share it.
The dwarf fighter.
Russ, zombies who aren't slow. Wouldn't make me show.
The tree-hugging elf.
Well, this certainly is embarrassing. This has never happened before.
I love this episode.
Robbery.
Hollywood, I bow to your seemingly extrasensory grasp of the questions
This
tonight.
is exquisite.
You are, of course, correct in every way a human being could possibly be correct.
That's awesome.
Russ goes without saying. Sorry. That's it for tonight. Thanks for listening, and good night.
We will pass through the American patrols, past their sonar nets, and lay off their largest city, and listen to their D6 generation while we play our Russian board games.
Dice are our vice.
Hello, and welcome to episode 31 of the D6 generation. I'm Russ Wakeland.
I'm Craig Amon.
And I'm Rafe Hollywood Granger.
No THX or Dolby 5.1 or...
No, but I'm very excited because this is episode Epi 31, man.
Why is that exciting?
Why is that? Yeah.
Because in episode 31, you need to strap it on.
Okay, well, that's still going forward. Now, we should talk what we're going to do today. Today's
It's a
show...
small show.
Yes, a show of diminutive stature.
Yeah,
We'll
yes,
see.
we wouldn't want to
We're
upset
going to be
anybody.
covering two games today, an unusual double review today. We're going to be talking about Munchkin today. A lot of folks have been asking us to talk about Munchkin. We got
So donut holes?
complimentary copy in from our folks in Germany, friends in Germany, and they were asking us to review the game, but also compare it to Cutthroat Caverns, because apparently a lot of folks think the games are similar. We're going to talk about that today. And also the brand new game from Days of Wonder, Small World, which we'll talk more about later. But first, we need to thank our advertisers. Rafe, go.
Well, I want to make a special thank you shout out to our good advertiser of Myriad Games. Well, why is that, Russ?
Why? What? What?
And-
Well, I always read it, so I was throwing it off to you.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was not there.
Flat-footed.
Yeah, Craig and I were having a private conversation. Well, Myriad Games, of course, wants us to know that we should support friendly professional gaming stores everywhere. And if you don't,
Which
subscribe-
includes Myriad Games.
includes Myriad Games, but any other
But if
gaming store near you.
I could indulge you in a moment, a myriad of other stores as well.
That's right. A myriad of other
beautiful.
stores, a wide myriad of stores.
Beautiful.
So, they're doing a great job. And also, we have Craig, who's our other advertiser this week.
Battlefoam.com. And we're a bunch of local guys. Well, firstly, I think it was very interesting because our friend Christian, who won the 40K tournament at Adepticon.
That's right.
Did we even mention that? That one of my...
We did not.
That one of my teachers and...
Right. Your
mentor-
master.
One of my masters.
Another New Hampshire boy does good
Yeah,
down there.
yeah.
The former
But,
DACA crew guy.
part of the win was one of those huge
Gigantoid
Battlefoam
transports.
cases, and so
cool.
he's all excited now because he's in the process of getting
Foaming
the
it up.
foam and foaming it up. And
That's right.
Foam
Battle
it
foam
up.
protects your army, so you don't have to.
Exactly.
They make
you
custom
could be
foam.
a totally careless moron
As long as you get your guys in your
because
foam.
Battle foam is looking out for you.
In fact, they were doing a thing on. They were just releasing some new shots of the Valkyrie foam they've got, and they were talking about how their
You
testing
pronounce
is.
that any way you'd like.
How do you pronounce it?
No, I'm saying you pronounce
Okay,
it any way
good.
you'd like.
That's the new flappy
You're an
fly.
adult.
That's the fly thing from
The fly
the
thing.
fly
that's
thing
classic.
from
Fly
GW.
thing. You go with it.
Yep.
Russ.
And what they do it, and Romeo was talking about this because I guess the one he came out with really only fit in the new battle foam cases, and he couldn't quite figure out how to get it to fit into a GW case. Some folks are like, oh yeah, you can just jam them in like this and jam them in like that, and Romeo's like, yeah, but it doesn't pass the 4-foot test. I was like, what is it? Well, yeah. Well, whenever we cut some foam, we put a model and we drop it from 4 feet, and if it damages it, we don't go with that layout.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
So,
man,
so,
that
yeah.
guy, he doesn't.
They don't mess around. They don't mess around over there at
all
Battle
covered.
Foam. If you want the ultimate way to protect your models, there's only one place to go, and that's battlefoam.com.
And
Battle
you always
Foam.
get that really cool "I'm an assassin" opening up my case with its weapon
Oh,
in
yeah.
it feel.
Oh, yeah.
because
Awesome.
that just.
So check them out.
At least that's how I feel.
And also,
I came up with this for Battle Foam. What do you think?
Okay, go.
Battle Foam, protecting your models one model at a time.
okay,
Pretty good.
we'll go
Huh?
with it.
Okay.
Half of that's Romeo's.
Okay, good. And also, paintedfigs.com, our oldest and most trustworthy advertiser. Painted Figs been with us since very, very early on. And of course, they paint your models. Send them out to them. They'll
So
take care of it
you
for
don't have to.
Exactly. Paint your
You
models.
can fit
You don't have
almost
to.
anything.
And they just they're running contests for us all the time. On some new contests, we have a winner to announce, and a new contest will come shortly from them.
Yippee.
Nice.
And of course, we want to say thank you to all of our sponsors this week, and you'll hear shout outs to them throughout the segments of the show. And Craig, how do our sponsors go about getting sponsorships on the show?
Well, what they do is they go to our website, and you'll see that we update on a regular basis a little blog entry that will link them to our eBay auctions,
Right.
or they can go to eBay and do a search for the D6 generation.
For the megaphone on the website.
Exactly. And then bid away. Bid away, you crazy little diamonds.
Right. Bit away. And that's great. It's a great way to help out, just help the show and get some, participate in the show too for very short money.
And the Hollywood Minute is specially reserved for your in-game smackdowns.
That's right. Now, another thing, Rafe likes to talk about this so much, Rafe.
What?
Now, let's say you don't want to deal with eBay, but you want to give us some money. What's another option you have? Go.
Oh, man, the donate button.
Yes.
You just click it, and you know what else? Dan gives you a little extra sauce. I don't know the levels. I leave the details to you guys. But if you donate a certain level, Dan of Myriad Games will send you Myriad bucks for free.
The first level is 25. The second level is 50. If you want to donate that money, and we got to thank Evan Miracle and Brendan Jakubowski. How do you do on that one?
It's
Thanks,
tiny,
guys.
so I can barely read it.
All right,
But, it
both of
sounds
them
good to me.
donated. Thank you very much,
Yeah,
gentlemen.
thanks,
Really appreciate
guys.
it. Now, also, we normally do shout outs for iTunes reviews. We just did that last episode. We'll do some more next episode, but we did miss a couple folks, and I
We
feel
did.
really about this. Some guys in Denmark have left us some nice reviews.
Yeah.
In English, no less. So I'll have to go
Very nice.
up next time. We'll make sure you get you. And we
Yep.
missed Andy in Australia.
Yes, who used a very interesting term, geekasm,
Geekasm.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So,
or was it nerdasm? I think it was a geekasm.
Yeah. So check out the Australian iTunes reviews to see Andy's special word for the show.
Huh. Nerd,
So thank you,
nerdgasm.
Andy. And good entry last time on the Cutthroat Caverns contest. We enjoyed it. Now, speaking of contests, how'd you like that segue?
Very nice.
Not bad.
I liked it.
That's very good.
Speaking of segue, let's talk about some of the contests we have going on here. Speaking of segues, speaking of contests, we just had the big Painted Figs Black Reach Orc contest, right, Craig?
No.
We
We just had the Marine contest.
Marine contest, right? I got all these Black Reach guys
It's
confused.
okay.
and,
It's
whatever.
okay. You're a wonderful human being anyway.
What's going on? What did you eat in your breakfast cereal this morning? I don't know.
I don't eat breakfast cereal.
All right.
Breakfast cereal is for children, and we're all adults here.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, okay, so for our listeners who don't know, Craig may have received a slightly critical email.
A little critical.
A little critical of So Craig is now what I would term, I don't know what Rafe is, but it's overcompensating for some of these issues.
Now, see,
yes.
that just seems to be painfully hurtful. And
Yeah.
I don't know why you would say that.
Yeah, well, you know what? I didn't get a critical email, so I'm all in your face.
It's true. That's true.
So anyway, so if you'd like
let
Craig
the
to
hate
return,
mail fly, my
if
friend.
you'd like Craig to return to his normal self, send emails
fine.
to Craig
I'm
at
fine.
the d6generation.com.
I'm all good.
And tell him how much we love him just the way he is. Because you're
cherry.
good enough,
It's
you're
all
smart enough.
Cherry. Don't
And
even
gosh
go there.
darn it,
Don't
people
even
like
go
you.
there. Please do not mock a U.S. senator. Any more
hilarious.
than by existing, he mocks himself.
Okay, moving right along, back to contests again. This will get back to gaming eventually, folks. Just stick with us. Okay, so we just had the winner, Carl Knott. Did we mention Carl Knott actually winning?
No, you didn't.
No, we didn't.
So Carl Knott won
Congratulations,
the Marines.
Carl!
So Carl, contact paintedfigs.com. They'll hook you
You
up.
win all of the Marines in the Black Reach box set.
Painted to your specifications. So
They could be pink. Keep that in mind.
Now next,
nice.
Naveen is like, well, we got to have another contest. So
Right away.
he's got the orcs from Black Reach now ready to go for
Alrighty.
another lucky listeners. Again, you can pick it up however you want to paint it, except he's out of Def Coptus. I know it's a crime.
He's
so,
out of Def Cop.
So basically, it's going to be the 2 mobs of boys, which is 20 orcs total.
Wait. Why don't you ask me?
Go ahead, Rafe. Take it away.
Okay, what you get is a full amount of boys. I believe that to be 10, could be 8, I'm not sure. You also get about 5 knobs. Now, these are the big, gnarly knobs where you've got like choppy claws and stuff, and they've got the multiple wound thing. Craig can explain that to you. You get the war boss, which that's just too cool. He's about 3 inches high, and that model is sculpted. It's just unbelievable.
So, see, for folks listening along at home, it just sounded like right there we picked on Rafe. But the reason we laughed at him is because in front of him right now is a piece of paper that says the orcs are 2 mobs of 20 total. 2 mobs of 10, 20 orcs. He's like, I don't know, 8 to 10, I can't think. That's the reason we laugh at him. It sounds like we're picking on him. Actually, he's just goofing.
Jokes.
Right.
No, I'm not goofing. I'm actually off on the web looking at someone else's review of the Assault on Black Reach box.
He's not even paying attention to the show notes. All right, anyway, great job.
Now, wait, there's more,
Rafe.
but you don't get this. What comes in the Assault on Black Reach box, you get 5 times D6 and a scatter die, 2 measuring sticks, the small rubric, templates. But you're not getting that because this is just the painted fixed context where you get the orcs. I just want to be clear about that.
He works on so many levels that you just don't get.
It's
Russ.
deep. I know. I don't. Anyway, 20 boys, 5 knobs, a war boss, pinned away like them, paintedfigs.com. Go to our website, click on the contest button to find out more. Okay. Whew. Now,
you know what we should do now?
Yes.
We should check some voicemail.
We should check voicemail. You know what we need? We need voicemail music. Next time I'm going to get some voicemail music.
Okay.
It feels like a segment.
Okay, wait. Here's your voicemail music for the day.
All right. Okay. All right, here we go. Coming up on the voicemail now. Any moment while Craig...
I hope that guy has true
serenades
pitch.
us here with...
What's that called? True pitch? No. What's it called? Perfect pitch, because this would be driving him crazy if he's not ignoring my voice, which would be fine with me.
Nice.
Because it is a world of laughter.
This is Elon Muscat. I left a contest entry and really enjoyed the previous show when they were all played back. I'm really pleased that the Jabber Notice that I sponsored was the theatrical one. That was a lot of fun as an amateur thespian myself. Just mentioning that I've been enjoying listening to the shows, that picked up Heroescape the other day on some recommendations online, and was wondering if you guys play that very often and whether you enjoy it. Otherwise, good luck. Keep going. Keep making fun of Rafe, and Rafe, keep taking it well. That always keeps things entertaining. Take care.
Nice. See, there's positive reinforcement that we should be picking on Rafe.
There you go.
All right.
I'm the yin to your yang.
I think the key there is that he said, keep taking it well. So somebody out there is taking it well, and it's probably Rafe.
Well, there was actually a question in there, I believe.
Uh-huh.
And it regarding the game Heroescape.
Heroescape.
So, gentlemen, are either of you familiar with this product?
I have played Heroescape, yes.
Nope. Even though I collect comic books, I have not played or entertained playing Heroescape.
I actually gave Heroescape to my brother for Christmas about, several years ago. And he and his friends from his little D&D group got totally addicted to the thing.
Yes, they did.
Bought all the expansions, bought 3 or 4 sets because they could slap them all together. For those who don't know, Heroescape is actually mass available. It's usually in Toys R Us. I think it might be on the downtrend now, but for a while it was everywhere.
You can get it in Walmart.
Yeah, Walmart. And it's a miniature combat game. Very, very simple. But it's got this interlocking plastic terrain that sort of snaps together, and it takes a while to set up. Once you got it set up, you fight.
And it can look really nice.
It can look really nice.
You can do some really nice things with it.
And the thing about it that's kind of neat but also weird is that the models come from all these different eras in history. So you'll have like colonial, revolutionaries fighting against space monsters or robots, demons, dragons up against cowboys.
I thought it was all superheroes.
No,
they have a superhero version now.
There's a Marvel expansion, right?
Yeah.
So basically, and then there's interlock too. So now you can have the Hulk fighting the dragon and the robots, and
there's a lot of mods you can find online that bring in almost every miniature ever made.
So it's neat. I think it's a little too simple for my personal taste, but it's great with the kids. It's a fun game. It's
a great beer and pretzels.
It is.
If you're not playing Monster Apocalypse or one of those other games, it's a very fun filler game where you don't have to go and paint a bunch of models. You don't have to build a bunch of terrain. Right. It's all right there in the box. You can whip it out really quickly, strap it on, and you're good to go.
Right. And
I whip it out quickly and strap it on, but whatever.
Sure you do.
Did you see what I did there?
I saw what you did there. That was very
Did you
nice.
see
You
what
laid
I
it up
did?
for me. I
I
liked it.
totally did.
You totally set them up. It's like you love them, man.
I do love them.
So yeah, Heroescape's a fun game.
I love all of
We are
God's
familiar with it, and
creatures.
it's good. It's good try. Now, Hollywood, that was a great voicemail, and we'd like to get more. So, Rafe, where should folks call to leave us voicemail?
Well, they should pick up the phone and dial 339-368-6051. That number again, folks, is 339-368-6051. And if you dial right now,
You get
we will
nothing?
give you absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing. You can also, of course, send it in via Skype to the.d6.generation or email us a wave or other audio file, and we will try to play them that way too. Okay, so I think it's time now for Craig Go.
Achievements in gaming.
Nice.
You turned that off too
Yeah,
soon.
he cuts you off
Too
at
soon?
the end there.
Let's try it again. Let's take two. Ready? Here we go. Ready? Go.
Achievements in gaming. Oh, you got me.
There we go. All right.
Actually cracked a smile.
Okay.
So the first time it sounded like pigs in space, and the second time it sounded like the announcer at a boxing ring.
There you go. So, Craig, this week you have to read the achievements for Achievements Game.
Yeah.
Can you read them?
No, I
that
can't,
size?
actually.
We're going to have to make this a little larger because we want to make sure Craig gets this exactly
You do.
right.
Ready?
Here we go.
I don't get it.
I, Craig Gallant, sincerely apologize for any past grievances against my radio inspiration, Rafe, brought to you in Technicolor Granger. His soothing voice, general audio expertise, and amazing good looks embody the man I hope to one day become on the D6 generation. And a shout out to General Crispy of the Rafe-olution.
Nice.
Nice.
I like that our listeners are in on this joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
see, most of them.
Most of them are in on this joke. Okay, great. So, oh, nice. Nicole just said we have to have Marisa stop by in the shout outs. I thought that was pretty funny. Okay.
I like it.
So, let's talk about the things we've been playing here lately. I'll start. Wait, should I start?
Yeah, why don't you
Okay,
start?
why don't I go ahead and start this off here? I have been playing a crazy number of games.
Yes.
And this is mostly because just picked up It's a Small World. Or Small World. It's a Small World. It's a Small World is actually originally published in 1967, based on Disney Ride. This is not that game.
That is not
More
that
about
game.
that later.
Right. Yeah.
I got Small World. Nicole loves that. I played that game like 3 times in 2-player variants right before Games Day at Chez Fleuret,
Very nice.
which is Chris's semi-annual gaming extravaganza.
I can always make one, but not the other one.
Right.
Yeah, same here.
They are good fun. And played just a metric ton of games, really. We played Small World twice, 5 players. Take achievement for that. We played Bang, of course. Take achievement for that. We played StarCraft, a nice 4-hour version of StarCraft. Interesting
Russ.
note, yes.
I still want to play StarCraft. Can you bring that?
I certainly can.
I haven't played it yet, and after your review, I do want to play.
Now, here's an interesting note about StarCraft, because at the
Yes.
same time we played, there was like 15, 20 people at Chris's thing on and off all day. And at the same time we played StarCraft, 4 guys jumped in and started up Conan. So, max size game of Conan, new to the Age of Conan game, 4 players. Max size 6-player game of StarCraft. Both games finished exactly the same time.
Wow.
Interesting little note.
It's a record.
It is. And in our game, Josh was playing around trying to make it go as long as humanly possible, too, which is kind of funny.
Well, that's fun.
Anyway, good time with that. Also played a game for the first time myself, Formula D, which is like an IndyCar race. It's not even like it is an IndyCar racing game.
It's fun, isn't it?
With really the D. Now there's just an old version called Formula Day. The new version, Formula D, has got kicked up components with little shifters and markers to see your tire damage. It was fun. We played 10 players in that game. It was really neat.
Wow.
Then we played Cutthroat Caverns, of course, and Dan, the owner of Myriad Games.
Yep.
He's very sneaky.
He is
You got to
sneaky.
watch him in Cutthroat
You
Caverns.
do. Well,
he's
you have
like,
to watch him all the time.
He's like
really.
hiding things under his paper and whatnot. It was a little. You got to keep an eye on him.
Really?
Oh, that's a little suspect.
Well, it was kind of a joke, but yeah. And also, now here's kind of cool. We sort of did like a
Okay, so there are 3 hosts, thousands of listeners.
yeah.
Rafe, am I wrong in my interpretation that Russ just indulged in an inside joke that neither of us and none of our listeners could possibly understand?
Yeah, I have no idea what he's talking
Yeah.
about.
Okay, never mind.
What?
Continue.
That Dan was sneaky.
No, he was hiding stuff. Oh, never mind. No, you know what? No mockery.
No, he was. when you play Cutthroat Caverns, you
Russ,
have prestige tokens, and he was hiding them under his papers. That's all.
You are an adult. And clearly, you mean what you say, and you say what you mean. And I understand.
See, here's the
that
problem, people.
Sometimes I lack the ability to understand you, and that says more about me than it says about you.
We could just snipe each other and continue. The show actually moves faster.
I'm not interested in fast moving.
Rambling
I'm
apology.
interested in full and complete disclosure.
All right.
Okay? And trying my best not to whine. Thus,
Wow.
I'm trying to modulate my voice
Yeah.
and make sure that you all know how much I love and appreciate you.
I'm not modulating your voice. All right.
Could we not make a joke out of this?
Yeah, okay. So anyway, I was just saying Dan was being sneaky with the counters in the game.
Gotcha. Oh,
anyway,
I see. So he was hiding his prestige
counters under the papers.
He probably heard the episode where you talked about how you will immediately kill anyone who's in the
That's
lead.
probably what it was from. See, it was not an inside joke.
Yeah, okay, I get it.
All right, now, also...
See, this is another thing I didn't get.
At the same time, Alex decided to make it a Smirk and Dagger hour. We're playing Cutthroat Caverns with 6, and he starts a Run for Your Life Candyland, which you brought in. And I didn't get to play it, but everybody had a good time playing that game, so that sounds like it's fun.
I can't wait to try it.
And then, so give an achievement for Alex for that. And then we had Rock Band going all day long there.
I hear Ragnar
All
can sing.
day long.
We learned that some of our
all
friends
day,
could actually sing.
All day. All...
Better than that, too.
Well, I would hope.
And so I got to give some achievements to Alex for all of his great show reference throughout the day. Achievement to Chris for hosting. And Nikki for the Fab to Die For calzones. Yum. In fact,
She does make a mean
I did
calzone.
almost literally die because I left my Cutthroat Cavern character to go get another calzone and they attacked me. So that was my just one day. Then I had the first Tuesday after the last show, played Battlelore and more Small World. Took another achievement for that. Then I had my weekend of bachelordom. My wife went off on a little girls' weekend out.
Now, wait a
and
minute. Did
you
she take
keep
the
making up-
children?
No.
So you didn't have bachelordom.
Well, it was evening
He had
bachelordom.
single daddom.
Yeah, I had single dad
single
which
daddom.
basically meant during the day I was running around having a great time with the kids. At night when the kids went to bed around 7, though, I am now free to play online. So I played Blood
Wait a minute,
Bowl.
Russ. We all know you Benadrylled them at least 5:30.
I did no such thing. You can't prove it. I played Blood Bowl. That beta just ended, sadly, but it's so more fun with that. Then I experimented for the first time with Vassal and Sun Tzu.
Hey, Craig.
Yes?
While you were gone, I don't know if you've caught up on the emails. There were so many emails about the Vassal games.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's a new addiction for those folks. Talk about me with an MMO addiction. I think they're Vassal addicts.
I
Him and Shifty and Brian and Dave Farr.
Well, I have a couple things I should probably admit to.
You've joined an MMO?
No, one is if I see an email thread that Shifty started, I just delete it.
Nice. No hate, though.
No,
He doesn't hate Shifty.
You obviously, I like Will a lot, and I think he's funny, but
Nice.
he's so excited about so many things that he'll start an email thread that'll be a single sentence, like, "Hey guys, I'm at work and I'm looking out the window and there's a hummingbird. That'd make a great game."
Yeah.
It's true.
And so
Well, I don't
I'm
know what
like,
that's like
I
at all.
can't. Yeah, no, you're not like that at all.
Yeah, he's your Padawan.
But anyway, yeah. So I think I accidentally must have gotten rid of all those emails.
You might have.
So.
But anyway, so Vassal and Sun Tzu are two different tools, or Zun Tzu, I should say, are two different tools that allow you to play a wide variety of board games
I think you're a
over the
tool.
internet. Thank you. I don't know what's going on tonight, guys.
Now, see, that
don't
puts me in a
understand.
very difficult place. Do I laugh because I love Rafe, or do I scold Rafe because I love Russ?
Anyway, so I think we should do a show on these play online
Sorry, I
tools.
didn't mean
'cause
to whine.
We had some fun with Battlelore Online. So I'm just saying, it was a really good time with that.
I'm just saying MMO.
That's not an MMO.
I
It's-
know
in
that.
fact, it
but
doesn't even
you're
have any
just as
rules.
addicted.
Well, okay. Okay, I don't know how to respond to that.
Hey, you got to play Tannhauser again?
Yes, I had John over, and he played Tannhauser. And then
I'll play that again.
And then John, Nicole, and I played Small World again. That game is phenomenally fun. And then also I got the Wolverine 360 game, and I'm enjoying
how
that
is
also.
that?
I saw the movie, too. Movie, not bad. I mean, not incredible or anything, but not bad. And the game is actually quite fun. If you like God of War and that kind of thing, and you like Wolverine, at least rent it. It's fun.
Okay, cool.
And then finally, this last Tuesday, more Battlelore, more Small World, and I played Munchkin a couple times to get ready for the show. So, I got to take a couple more achievements for that.
I have two games.
one more thing
I
before
played
before
what
you
I
go
call
on. Before
the
you go
drippy
on.
game
Oh, let him go.
on my
Drippy game.
iPod while I was at Disney World.
Okay.
Well, not at Disney World, but while we were waiting to get on the bus, let's say. And I played Call of Duty when I came back. And I'm really stuck on a map, and I'm really frustrated.
Are you in the
day
single?
far to come.
Is this a single player campaign or is this like?
Yeah, single player. I don't know. I just keep getting grenaded to death, and it's just typical Rafe single shooter problems. I don't know what to do.
Now, Craig, did you have any gaming? You're busy in China most of the time.
Yeah.
Do they play games in China? They must.
They do. Actually, it's really...
Besides checkers, I mean, everybody knows about that.
Wow.
Joke. That was a joke, people. If you have a complaint about that, send it to Hollywood at the
rampant racism.
So what do you
got? I did play Wings of War, Dawn of War.
Ooh, nice.
On the floor of the Beijing train station because
that's kind of cool.
Train was a little late, so that was neat. I played.
Did you play with flying tiger models on the Great Wall of China? That'd be kind of funny.
No.
No. Okay.
No. Although I do have an interesting. Yeah, the flying. Yeah, don't ask your Chinese tour guide about the flying tigers.
Oh,
that would be my. They pretend they don't know who the flying tigers are, and then later on they say, "Only Chinese people can be Chinese national heroes."
Well, okay.
I don't know who the Flying Tigers are.
Yeah, you got to look it up. Google it.
I don't think it's that weird though, because only Americans could be American national heroes.
Nobody said that they were national heroes.
I know that's kind of weird.
That was it was not apropos of
Okay.
what was being.
I'm with you now.
Anyway.
I'm
So
completely
yeah,
lost.
so I played that. Saw games being played everywhere, which was great. They have all kinds of really big board games, and you've got with that many people in your country, you've got lots of retirees, and they do lots of cool things like Tai Chi in the morning. We went and watched that. A lot of sword work in the morning. They play lots of different traditional board games.
What's a traditional board game in China?
Mahjong wouldn't
okay.
really be a board game. But I don't know really what it was, but it was huge, and it had lots of little stone pieces.
Like Go?
It might have been Go, but I don't think so.
But giant size?
Yeah, it didn't look.
Were the people
literally
actually
it was
pieces?
like 3 foot by 3 foot board.
Kind of like live action chess. To be real people Go?
No, not like that. No.
Okay.
Please stop making fun of the Chinese culture.
I'm not making fun of I'm asking. I don't know these things. I'm just a silly American. I'm a generic American guy. Owen can't be here today, so I'm going to take his place.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's pretty much it for games. Dan tried to get me a copy of a game. Apparently, there's a game called The Great Wall of China, and he tried to get it to me, and I was going to play on the Great Wall of China. But probably a good thing that I didn't get it because I was pretty much out of breath the entire time I was on the Great Wall of China.
Nice.
Because we went to a really steep section, and climbing it was like climbing the longest staircase on the planet.
Cool.
Wow.
So it was amazing, but I really wasn't in any shape to be playing any games after.
Now, have you climbed to the top of the Statue of Liberty?
I have not.
I was going to say, did it feel longer than that or not? I was
Right.
just curious.
I can guarantee you that it was longer than that because it was a big mountain pass.
Okay. That does seem longer.
Yeah, it was. And it was out in the blazing sun, but
seems
it was fun. The coolest thing gaming-wise about the whole thing, I would have to say, would be the Terracotta Warriors that I mentioned in Rapid Fire because that's the coolest collection of army models you're ever going to meet.
Right.
And Emperor Qin had them all made, and they were all painted. Most people, I didn't know that. Most people don't realize that they were painted to be completely realistic, life-size models.
Cool. Where do you display this collection?
Where do you display this collection? You display it in a huge national park in a building the size of a mall that's all one room.
Now, did the emperor originally bury them, or did he?
Yeah, they're buried. They're buried in a series of tombs that actually are laid out like a standard battle formation. So there's a central core force, there's a reserve force, there's 2 flanking guarding forces. It's really amazing. It's unbelievable.
That's awesome.
And after he died, there was a period of turmoil, and tomb raiders actually broke in and destroyed a bunch of the Terracotta Warriors to show disrespect. So a bunch of them are smashed, and they're rebuilding them slowly. It was really amazing. So
that sounds really cool.
It was cool. I mean, the weird thing was Karen cried. She was so moved by it, which I don't get. I'm like, you never cry when you look at my models.
Well, we also know that he was married.
Yes.
Because you probably wanted to put the Warriors like in the living room. She's like, you're not putting those in here.
No, yeah. He probably wanted
You're going to bury those in the backyard if they're going to go anywhere.
Bury those a mile away from your tomb, buddy.
Right.
And we know that Karen has only cried when meeting one other person, and that's not Craig. Howard Stern.
We do know. Yes, we did know that.
She didn't meet Howard Stern even. She met all the people involved with the Howard Stern show.
So that means that Howard Stern show ranks up there with the Terracotta Warriors.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, cool.
Yep. So that's pretty much it for me. I did have a blast.
An achievement for visiting China. I'll give you 2. They're small.
Well, I should get one for each of the 2 games I played.
All right, there's one more.
Oh, I didn't mention Carcassonne on the overnight train from Beijing to Xi'an.
Oh, nice.
So
Carcassonne
took
night.
the last train to China.
All right.
there you go.
Now, what about modeling? I actually got some modeling in. Believe it or not, I finally
I just noticed that.
painted something.
Did Rafe get to do his achievements?
He went first. He did the little drip game, and he did the Call of Duty.
Okay.
Yep.
There's more down here. So anyway, so I painted my Earth Elemental from Battlelore because in my Battlelore game, it single-handedly won one of the games for me. So I had to paint him up, and I put a little bit of static grass on him, and I like it.
That's
Very
cool.
nice.
And then I also finished one of my rec markers for one of my jacks. I just felt like I wanted to paint one, so I think it was a little not much, but it felt really good to get painted.
How long
again.
did it take you to do the rec marker?
Oh, I don't know, like 15 minutes.
Oh, okay. So you just kind of did it like dry brush metal?
Yeah, well, no, I added some color to it and stuff, but I was kind of doing it while I was waiting for layers to dry on the elemental because I was putting more time into him. So,
Okay. Just wondered. I haven't done those yet.
And then, Rafe, you had some stuff in the modeling section here that I wasn't really sure was modeling, but
I think you should read that quote so that I get more emails thanking me. Go ahead, read it. Read your parentheses, Russ.
Well, it says, this is modeling, and you're going to talk about people getting into War Machine and Hordes.
Yes, let me tell you why.
All right, go for it.
Because they asked about what models to get.
Well, okay, but okay. All right. Well, that's fine. That's good. That's okay.
Okay, so people
yeah,
email
go
me,
ahead.
and I don't get a chance to respond as much as I'd like, and so I just wanted to hit 2. I've gotten maybe 10 emails apiece on each of these sections. A lot of new people are getting into War Machine and Hordes, which I think that's great, and they're asking what faction to pick. So here's my 2 cents on that. Hollywood's rule of picking an army is, number 1, you pick the models that appeal to you, on the theory that, just on how they look, on the theory that you're going to be looking at them a lot, building them a lot, painting them a lot, and if they don't appeal to you aesthetically, you're not going to like it. But I can be the first to tell you this, nothing like building a Sisters of Battle army and getting your butt kicked in a tournament every single day. So that's not fun either. So my secondary choice before I pick my final choice is to ask experienced players what the play style's like and to match your player style with your own. So this is my rundown. If you like a hard-hitting, slow, tough armor force, that's Khador. Pretty straightforward force. You don't have to be sneaky with it. If you like light, fast, but squishier forces, but you need subtlety to play it, that's Crix. If you like a synergistic playstyle where your different units need to work in synergy off the other ones, that's Menoth. And in my opinion, Russ knows Signar better than me. I think Signar has it all. You can have tough jacks, you can have synergistic troops, you can be subtle, you can be hard.
They're high tech, although not as high tech as the new race coming out, but they're high tech.
Yeah, so I think if you're like, geez, all of those appeal to me, I think Signar would be a great choice. But then, like they say, you have a little bit of everything, but master of none. You're not all the way tough. You're not all the way fast, that kind of thing.
They're the equivalent of the Space Marines in the War Machine world.
Yes. And a lot of people who know War Machine and all that will say Khador's the tough one and Crix is the lightning one. As you'll notice, I skipped all that because that to me doesn't help me decide anything. But it is part of the fluff.
All right.
You guys have any 2 cents on that?
Just that wasn't modeling.
Okay.
I think
you'll get lots of emails on that, won't you, Craig?
I think you will, and I think it was genius.
I shall not. Nobody puts Winkle in the corner. I shall not be browbeaten.
On Flames
I stand up for my beliefs, damn it. That was not modeling. That was purchasing advice. All right, go.
Well, we don't have a segment for that.
You could be an other.
With you
go.
engineers, man, they're so rigid.
Yeah.
So I get lots of questions on Flames War. Hey, folks out there for Flames War, I have not given up on it. What sort of happened is I got busy with work. I can't play with Don as much anymore, and it's been a problem. So I do still like Flames of War. I still want to play Flames of War, and people are asking me, where do I start? We talked about the starter box kit. That's a good way to go. But after that, in this area, I would say you have to pick the historical side of the army that's of interest to you. History first. For example, Craig, you picked the Maori.
Maori.
The Maori. Now, Was that you being creative in using the British forces, or did it actually list that as an option under the British forces?
It didn't when I did it, and then they went and made an army list that stunk. So, yeah.
Okay.
So a bunch of the stuff I had suddenly was not usable, and the army that I had that was really competitive and looked really nice and was immediately recognizable and unique suddenly became something that lots of different people could have, but nobody would want because they were really not very useful.
Okay. But I guess my point, I didn't know that part of it. I guess my point to that was Craig was like, well, I don't want to just be British to be British. So he used the British Army book, but in his mind, he created the Maori force.
Right.
And that's what I suggest you do as well.
One of the many good things about the Flames of War books is that it comes with lists of all the units that were that followed that particular basic rules set.
Right.
And so the Maori were there, and I did some research, and there's actually a book that was published by them after the war by their association, and I read that, and I got really excited, and I did that whole army.
Exactly. Like I was reading at the time a book about an all-black tank company, and how they were treated in World War II. And so I modeled my Flames of War U.S. tank company after that history book that I had read, and it was really cool.
Yeah.
This is not so much play style like I just described above, because everybody has infantry, and everybody has tanks, and everybody has specialist troops, and everybody has artillery. But so you could pick any of those army books is what I'm saying, and you'll be happy if you're happy with that historical rundown.
Right.
But here is a broad overview. If you pick the Russians, you're getting a horde army. If you pick the Germans, you're getting a specialist army. The troops cost more, but you're very tough and strong, and your army's
you're getting the
small.
high-tech army. The Germans have the best technology.
Exactly. U.S., I would say, was pretty versatile. I don't know much about the Italians. I called it Orky because I remember they had lots of rules. Well, sometimes you would roll and they'd be awesome. Like I'm talking about, like your units would be like super strong and fearless, and other units in your same army would be conscripts and run away.
Game's changed a lot since then,
if
so that might not be the case.
If you'd like to comment on Hollywood's equating Italians to orcs, send email to Hollywood@the D6generation.com.
Rafe, he's trying to send a lot of email your way today.
As I would like to follow up with Russ,
I can't make this stuff up. I don't make it up. I'm just telling you what
Italian Flames of War armies being Orky.
Okay.
Then send
I've
it
got to say, now that I've taken this constructive criticism and taken a step back, I'm starting to see it. I'm starting to see the hate and the vitriol with which Russ deals with Rafe on a regular basis. And all I can say is if that was me, my God, I agree with you. I was vile.
Nice.
Oh, maybe I'm beginning to see it. I'm not sure.
Bring it on, boys. What's next?
I just,
all right,
I'm disgusted.
And then there's the British forces, which I think of as very
I'm not
versatile
hateful. I'm just disappointed that he's comparing Italians to orcs.
Oh, I think you've been hiding behind this no hate shield, a deep and bitter hatred.
Wow.
All right. Yeah,
I'm done.
Nicole's puking in the corner again.
With
all
models.
Right, are you done? Good. Phew. Again, no modeling, more like purchasing advice, but that's okay. So, Craig, did you
about models.
I didn't do any modeling. Right. No. Although I did get my
What did you paint a terracotta warrior? It was like a little.
No, I could have. No. But from our listener Derek, I did get my own fresh new on the sprue Imperator Titan.
Ooh, I want to see that.
Yeah. So
cool.
So I'm all excited about that, but I haven't done anything with it.
All right. Well, I didn't give any achievements out for any modeling. There's a couple for everybody. Now, Rafe, what about other activities? I know you were on vacation as well.
Yes.
While Craig was off gallivanting in China, you were down in...
I did no gallivanting.
Orlando.
Yes, I went down to the Nick Hotel and did the Disney swing.
Right.
And rather than describe the trip, I'm going to hit some gamer tech highlights. And don't worry about all those
highlights. All right. Hit us with Tech Gizmo trivia. Go.
Yeah, exactly. And don't worry about all those bullets. I'm just going to overview it. So I think the iPhone is the greatest invention ever. Here's how it helped me out.
Right.
I downloaded an app for the Disney parks that had every single food restaurant there. The theory being, if you're standing in the Magic Kingdom and you see the thing down there and your 2-year-old's hungry, you don't go all the way down there just to find out they serve clam strips. You could see that right on your iPhone. That saved us a whole bunch of times.
Nice.
Also, every single map of every park. So again, we'd be on the bus. We hadn't been to Animal Kingdom yet, so we didn't have the maps for Animal Kingdom yet. So we could say, hey, when's the parade? What ride are we going to hit first? What are we going to fast pass first? That made a huge difference. That was
for
cool.
clever use of the iPhone.
I was able to download episode 30 through Wi-Fi. That was cool because it wasn't downloaded by the time I left.
Nice.
This worked out well. I downloaded a couple TV shows, Dora and Hey Arnold. So when you're in there and you're watching the Nemo show, which of course you've got to get 45 minutes before it even begins or you won't have a seat, you can flick on Dora when your 2-year-old's going nuts and she calms down.
Nice.
So that was awesome. And hey, it let me catch up on my D6G emails, which was fun to read.
Cool.
Oh, and the other thing, hey, Russ, do other phones do this? Our car service was in the wrong place, and I was able to go to my email.
I thought he was going to say he was able to call. I was like, do other phones? Yes, they do. You can call.
No, I was able to go to my email. Oh, Craig, there he is, picking on me again.
I know.
It's becoming, I'm now beginning to recognize.
I love it.
I feel like I'm between a rock and a hard place because I want to comment, but
there's two personality.
To be totally honest, I feel like I'm starting to pick on Russ, and I don't want to. I don't want to do
here's
that.
Here's how
either.
this works. When and people who play me in games see this side of me all the time. And Craig, when people poke me or about something, I actually get worse about it until you stop poking me. So you're seeing the personality traits here where I'm intensifying what I normally do, and Craig is extremely doing the opposite. So there you have it.
Yeah. But we've been friends a long time,
I'm not picking on you,
so
Craig,
we're all
because
good.
you're nothing but love.
Nothing but love. If I could only convey to the listeners the mad look in his face when he said that.
All right. So
it was like, hello.
So wait, what was the question about other devices doing something though, Ray?
So
It's
in the
Mr.
email,
Hyde.
in the email, it showed their phone number, which was hyperlinked, which I was able to hit, and it dialed.
Yep.
Did you hit that?
I wasn't sure. So I thought that was really cool.
Didn't work.
That was the sound of an impromptu joke failing miserably once again.
This is the sound of a pity achievement. There you go. Right. No, Rafe. Most phones, like the BlackBerry, will do that too. Like if someone sends me a phone number on my email, I can click it and it'll call.
Okay, I didn't know that.
But yeah, that's cool.
Hey, I have a question. When you email somebody from your BlackBerry, does it say "sent from my BlackBerry"?
There's a default.
It could, but
I disabled that because it's annoying.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
No, I love it.
I hate it.
Yeah, Rafe says, sent from my iPhone.
This was sent from my iPhone. See, I love it. I love sending it to non-iPhone people, and I like it even more when I get them from iPhone because I'm like, that's right, brother. We're talking the same language.
It's
all
like
right.
a revolution.
What else you got, Granger? Is this
all right, General, received my new battle phone. So remember I screwed up my tracings?
Yeah, did you get a new battle phone?
I did, and Romeo yet again was able to squeeze in everything. So I have all my jacks. And this time I paid attention to the tracing, and I didn't trace too close. I traced a little wider, so everything fits perfectly.
Nice.
I was very happy about that, and I'm still looking forward. I didn't get the miniature tray yet. There's a little confusion because I think Romeo was doing me a favor, and it didn't go through the normal channel. So I'm still waiting for the miniature one to see how the War Machine miniatures fit in the stock tray.
Yeah.
Read the new, not the new. I think I'm one behind. The Tide of Blood Dresden book. Craig, remember that one?
No.
It's about the 3 different vampires. He works as the porno stage assistant.
Sure, it's called the Tide of Blood.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. Rights of Blood, maybe.
It might be that.
I don't think
Blood,
Rafe can be wrong today.
Really good. What I
can't
like
be,
about it, it's got some really different vampire mythos in there.
Oh, it
which is
totally does. Yep.
pretty cool.
Yep.
Thanks for all the emails. I do read them. I enjoy them immensely. I try to respond. I already covered that. Hey, I want to make a shout out to Dan May Designs.
You bet.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about him. Go
We
ahead.
have
guys.
a new logo.
We do.
Yeah, and we're very excited. And Craig's been working with Dan.
I haven't really been doing much. Dan's been doing it all.
Well,
but
you gave him a vision. You gave him
I did.
So a few episodes ago, many episodes ago now, we discussed this little guy that helps us out on the show called Charlie the Cherub. Right?
Yep.
You bet.
Yep.
And Charlie will go and help us during interviews and make sure that we're extracting the right amount of information from folks.
Exactly.
Well, we thought it'd be great if there was some kind of physical representation of Charlie in the world so people could really understand what he looked like. And so Dan really took the concept and ran with it. At the same time, we were thinking about a badge or some kind of seal.
Right.
And so what you see, it's on the website now, and it'll be the new show logo on your MP3 player next time you download the show also. That's our new logo, and we'll be coming out with some, up on the website soon, we'll have a desktop you can download for your computer if you really want to show the show off that way. And we'll be coming out with some kind of ways to promote it on your clothing and or bags.
Indeed.
In the near
That's
future.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, it is really sweet work.
He
So
did an awesome job.
if you guys need, anything in that department, I mean, Dan let us know he's really booked up, but he loves the gamer genre.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't be afraid to go see Dan May Designs.
And even though he's booked, if you come at him with a really interesting project,
Yeah.
he may just get sidetracked on it.
Yeah,
for you.
he's a true artist.
So-
and
Definitely.
especially in that way, he'll get.
If you see our logo and you're
excited.
like, oh my God, like we were, because, we were
That's
like, oh my
amazing.
God. And you think it's cool, then, contact Dan May Designs, and see if,
yeah, and that's Dan with 2 N's.
Dan with 2 N's.
So when you Google it, it'll pop up.
And May like the month.
I got one more thing I have to do. Dave, our good friend Dave Farr, made me say this. He was like, hey, Rafe, can you tell me more about that book you wrote? Because I haven't heard anything about it. And I go, oh, Diesel the Weasel? He's like, yeah. He's like, you kind of mentioned it. He's like, you have to mention it when you podcast and tell people about it. So I think it's the coolest thing. So Dave's, checking it out. He's liking it. So if anybody wants to go read my kids' book, it's designed for wee gamer dads to read to your kids, Diesel the Weasel. You can go to lulu.com, download it, get the online version, because the print version stinks right now. I got to work on that.
Nice.
And read it to your kids. Let me know what you think. Send me in some emails. Just don't write the ones that you wrote about Craig. I'd be crushed.
Nice. Any other achievements there, Mr. Klon?
I got nothing.
All right, Rafe, I'll give you an achievement for pimping your book.
Thanks.
All right. That's achievements.
You're listening to the D6 generation. We just love playing around.
Greetings from Myriad Games, your friendly professional game store. We are pleased to announce the launch of Myriad Games Presentations, featuring a wide variety of unplugged family fun for everyone. Our show feed includes a variety of presentations, including session impressions, game gab, table talk, and advice from Gamer Angel. You can subscribe through the links at myriadgames.com or through iTunes. Your feedback is very important to us. Please email us through myriadgames.com with your comments, questions, suggestions, abuse, and general ridicule. If you enjoy our shows, we encourage you to post a positive review on iTunes. In fact, if you post a positive review, we'll send you a free pair of Myriad Games dice. For more about a myriad of games, visit your friendly professional game store, and be sure to visit us online at myriadgames.com. Myriad Games. So many games, so little time. Thanks for listening.
And now, what's in the news? With the shout-out, Happy 22nd birthday, Keith, from Dad and Kevin. Sorry, this one's a little late. Privateer Plastics. In the latest issue of their magazine, No Quarter, Privateer Press has released more details about their upcoming plastic model kits. Apparently, the plastic kits will come with parts separated and ready for filing and assembly, just as their metal models do. That's right, no sprues. Privateer Press has stated that without sprues, their packaging will be smaller, easier for customers to assemble, and allow them to recycle the excess plastic that would normally be part of the sprue. It also appears that their plastic is not styrene, and therefore polystyrene cement will not work. Interesting. Boldly playing it safe? This week, a new Star Trek game, Star Trek DAC, will become available on Xbox Live. The game will feature Federation and Romulan vessels battling it out in an arcade-like 12-player online matches. Unfortunately, this top-down space shooter does not sound like it will leverage much of the Star Trek license other than the shape of the ships, so be sure to try the demo before spending any money on this one. Valkyries, fly everywhere! The beautiful Games Workshop Valkyrie aircraft model has been spotted on the streets for a while, and we're starting to see it assembled on the tabletop. It features a very nice variety of modeling options and intricate moving parts, the hallmark of a great plastic kit. GW has some great close-ups and step-by-step assembly pictures and information up on their website. Be sure to take a look. Make your own cards. Print-on-demand services are nothing new, but perhaps the latest ability to make your own playing cards on demand will be all the rage with your gaming circle. It certainly is becoming a big hit in the forums. Artscow.com is offering the ability for folks to make their own decks of cards by uploading images for both the front and the back of the cards. This is a great way for would-be game designers to try their skills at card mechanics, or for game hobbyists who want to plus out their existing games. Or maybe you want to make some of those nice terrain generation cards that Craig keeps talking about. Head on over to artscow.com and check out how it all works. And that's What's in the news?
Are you having trouble fitting your whole army into one carrying case? Ever had your heavy centerpiece models break through the sides of their foam tray to scrape against their neighbors? You'll never have to worry about any of this again with Battle Foam. The trays from Battle Foam will hold over 30% more models than any standard tray, and they make foam to fit any box, including all manufacturers' carrying cases. What's more, they will custom cut your foam trays to fit any miniature. The boys at BattleFoam.com can even personalize each tray by etching Army logos, personal text, or images right onto the foam. So go to BattleFoam.com right now and pick up the best foam on the market. You've spent more time and money than anyone wants to think about on your models. Shouldn't they be as safe as you can make them? BattleFoam.com. Hooah!
Hello and welcome back. And now we're going to talk about, Craig, what are we talking about?
Munchkin!
Right. We're going to be talking about Munchkin, the card game. We've been receiving a lot of emails regarding Munchkin, especially since our Cutthroat Caverns review.
Pro and con.
Both.
Yeah.
Also, our friends over at the Myriad Games podcast, when they reviewed Cutthroat, they also mentioned similarities to Munchkin. And I thought, gee, I haven't played Munchkin in forever. I played a different version of it a while ago, and it didn't remind me. Cutthroat didn't immediately bring Munchkin back to my head.
No, me neither.
But then one of our friends over in Germany sent us over a copy of Munchkin to review along with some of the expansions. I thought it'd be a great play it a few times, try it out, see, remember the fun of Munchkin, and see what it felt like now that we've played Cutthroat Caverns. Mm-hmm. So let's get through the basics. Munchkin was originally released way back around the turn of the century. 2001.
Which is weird. I would have said even earlier than that. It seems like it's been around
too.
forever.
Yep. 2001. Well, that is, that's getting there.
Yeah.
Excuse me, 8 years.
Yeah, I'm with Craig. I would have thought mid-90s.
By Steve Jackson Games.
Good old guy, Car Wars.
What are some of the games Steve Jackson Games produced? Ogre, Car Wars. Any others? Can you remember any others?
No.
Can't remember any others.
Oh, good. Okay. Fair enough. All right.
There's an inside joke.
There's a couple more. Also, and they won a award. They won the Origins Award in 2001 for Best Traditional Card Game. So, as you might imagine, Munchkin is a card game. It plays 2 to 6 players, and right now, today, it's still in production, still out there, and the suggested retail price is $25.
And you can get it all over the place, including bookstores.
Oh, yeah,
That's a bargain.
The base game is very common around.
At Borders, you can get almost all the expansions, too.
It's pretty mainstream, and it is... there's like 6 expansions and possibly more depending on how you count them.
I agree with that.
There's like the Clerical expansion 3, but there's also 3.5, which is the Clerical Error, which is like a misprint reprint. So it depends how you count them, but there's at least 6 expansions. And the original Munchkin, I believe the Munchkin Dungeon Crawl version of Munchkin, which is sort of the one everybody remembers, was the original. Now there's almost countless spin-offs.
Oh, yeah.
In different genres.
I saw there was last night you were pointing them out. There's a Munchkin Vampire version.
Right. There's the Good, the Bad, the Munchkin, which is the cowboy one.
There's a Munchkin Space Marine Munchkin.
There's a sci-fi. There's one about geeks, right, Rafe, where you play different geeks.
Yep. I think it's called Shea Dork.
So Munchkin's pretty popular. Let's go through the basic overview of the game. Again, it's basically a card game, and
it's really quick.
It's very quick, and then basically what you're doing here is you're going to be building a hero like you would be in a role-playing game. It's a spoof or a parody of a role-playing game hero building process, and each player is trying to be the first to get their hero to level 10. And as you're going along, you're going to be encountering monsters, gathering treasure, items, weapon, and different gears and things to wear.
Which are all represented on your cards.
Monty Hall campaign.
Very much like a Monty Hall campaign. And you're going to be leveling up, and you can help each other, and you can also foil each other with the different cards in the game. But the big theme in this game, what makes the game what it is really sort of the Dork Tower humor and artwork.
Right. It very much makes fun of itself.
It makes fun of itself. It makes fun of the industry. It makes fun of all the silly things you've ever done when you play D&D or any other role-playing games. And really, the heart of this game and what makes it so funny and enjoyable really is the humor and the jokes that are on the card, the satire on the cards. Name a couple of examples of funny cards, guys.
The +3 boots of ass kicking.
Right. Rafe, how about you?
A curse that's called a chicken on your head.
Right. And some of the monsters are great. Like there's
the level 8 gazebo.
The level 8 gazebo.
No
and
one can help you. You must face the gazebo.
I like the one that was the
alone.
level 1 egg in it. Oh, come on. Who's going to smash the pretty egg?
And then some of the level uppers, like, rules
Ancient.
rules error. You can level up. And I like the monster, the level 20 Katrina, which was a hurricane.
Yep.
You can level up by having a card that says wine at the GM.
Yep.
Right. So it's that kind of stuff. And the artwork's all from the Dork Tower comic. Same artist does all this stuff. And so you recognize that immediately if you're fans of that stuff.
I'm also thinking of Knights of the Dinner Table, too. It's that kind of humor,
exactly.
too.
Looks just like that stuff. And let's talk a little about what comes in the box. The components over $25. You got a little.
I love it when we talk about the box. Talk about the box.
Okay.
The box itself.
First, you get this smell, this new game smell.
Yeah. And the cards are all foil wrapped real tight.
I'm starting to.
Okay.
Like that plastic wrap, that you gotta rub your thumb against. You gotta get a pen and.
All right. So you rip open the plastic, and in there, in the basic game, you're going to get 2 decks of cards, 1 deck of the door cards, and 1 deck of treasure cards, and that's 168 cards total. You get a full color rules pamphlet.
Color.
Russ. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Russ was. You can all imagine how much Russ was preening last night.
I like color
about his full color rules pamphlet,
and you do get 1d6 also, which already adds one.
Yeah. And it's not a standard 1d6. It's a 6-sided die with 3 blanks, a 1, a 2, and a 3 on it.
No.
Actually, that's
wrong
a good
game.
call.
Oh crap!
That's totally
right.
the wrong game.
Wrong game.
That game is also small, but it's got a world in the end of it.
Right.
This is Munchkin.
Good
Munchkin
point.
actually features a totally standard white with black dots d6.
I should have had
Wow.
faith in your bullet points.
Craig had me fooled on that, too. It's a good thing we keep them around, huh, Craig?
Yeah.
Yes.
We need engineers now and again, I guess.
We do.
Now,
Otherwise,
one thing,
our bridges would collapse.
Yes.
Yep.
Now, one thing that is missing from the game is a component. It's not that you need this very badly, but you need a way to track your current level. And so you'll need to grab your own counters. We actually use little
prefer the
Battlelord
Russ
figures.
Wakelin way.
Yeah, we use little
Why
Battlelord
don't you
guys.
go out and buy a copy of Battlelord
just to track your Munchkin level.
That's right.
It did, but several people commented on that added to the theme of the game.
A couple people walked by and were like, "Oh my god, is that like an expansion?"
Right. Of course, you could use pennies or anything, or 10-sided dice, or whatever you wanted to use to track your level. Now, we should talk about the cards. The cards are color cards, but they're really two-tone, right?
Yes.
Sort of like this. It's a style thing. They're sort of like this brown and beige sort of look.
Oh, I get it. When Munchkin does it, it's a style thing.
Well, actually, I was about to criticize and say it's not as cool as the really bright and shiny, full-color, like pictures you see in Cutthroat Caverns, where you have the big, beautiful monsters.
Damn you.
But it's
Glenn.
not black and white. It's
Foiled again.
right. So anyway, I like my color, but it's nice. All right, so let's go into the mechanics of the turn. So how does this game start? How do we set this thing up, Rafe?
Well, after you get the cards broken out of the shrink wrap, you separate them out and you shuffle the treasure cards together and you shuffle the door cards together.
Right.
And then I prefer the Russ way of dealing, which is you grab both decks, one with the left hand, one with the right hand, and you slap one card down at a time, wha-bam, and then you slap the other card down, wha-bam. And each player gets 2 treasure cards and 2 door cards.
He's so lovable and unique.
And you do that around the table. Wha-bam, wha-bam, wha-bam.
Right.
And his sound effects are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you're going to deal each player 2 door cards and 2 treasure cards, right? Yep. And the very first thing you do before the first turn of the game is they build your character phase. And the rulebook's pretty funny here, too, because it actually says, like, everyone is a level 1 human with no class, and in parentheses, like, ha-ha.
Yeah.
Determining who goes first, the sentence actually says, roll a d6.
And then
argue about the sentence, the rules, the die roll, so it's got all the tongue-in-cheek gamer issues.
I love rule books like that.
So basically, the building your character part just means if any of the 4 cards you received already are either race cards, which we'll talk a little bit more, so like are you a halfling, an elf, or whatever, or are they class cards, fighter, thief, mage, whatever, you can put those down immediately and sort of just say, I am a human, I'm an elf fighter, or whatever, or warrior,
right.
or whatever.
Yep.
And then the turn starts. So what happens, Craig, during the turn of the game?
Well, the first thing you're going to do is kick open the door. So you're going to flip the top door card, and it's either going to be a monster,
yep,
a curse, or some other thing, either an item or it could be a race,
like an action card, or
yeah, right.
Yep.
So if it's a monster, you got no choice but to fight it.
You got to deal with it
or run away.
Right. And if it's a If it's a curse, you also get affected by the curse. Anything else, the table sees what it is, but you can take it in your hand and use it later.
Right.
Yep. So we'll talk about how you actually fight the monster in a minute. If there's no fight at all, though, Rafe, then what can you do?
Well, if there's no fight at all, you flip the card over. There's no fight. You take that card in your hand, like we just said, and you get to do what we called loot the room.
Well, not yet.
Not yet.
The first thing you could do.
can't?
Nope. If you don't fight, you can look for trouble first.
You have to do that next?
That's next. If you can either
I
look
didn't know
for
you had
trouble
to do
or
that.
you can search the room, your choice. If you look for trouble, you can basically play a monster out of your hand and attack it yourself.
Which gives you a benefit because you know exactly the monster you're facing,
So if
so you wouldn't play one that you couldn't.
If you've got a monster in your hand, you know you could beat. You could play it immediately and just quickly gain a level, which we'll go to more in a minute after you can fight. If you don't have a monster in your hand or you don't have a good one you think you can beat, you could then choose to what Rafe's saying. You can actually search the room or loot the room. So how does that work, Rafe?
Well, after you decide to not look for trouble, look for trouble. Wait, if you look for trouble, can you search the room?
No. You
Oh,
have to
that's
not.
why
One or
it
the
matters.
other.
Okay. Yeah. Then you pull the card from the door deck,
Yep.
and you just get that card.
And
Whatever
no one
it
sees
is.
it. So you get something secret out of the door
Right,
room.
it would be a monster,
Yeah,
but you don't play
have
it.
to
You
fight
get
it.
to
It
put
just goes in your hand. Right. Now, also in your turn, you can then play cards down in front of you that are items. So, for example, if in your hand you've picked up some boots or some
+3
or
boots of
armor,
ass kicking.
yeah, or the +3 bandana of badassery, you can put those down on the table, and get those in front of your character. So you're sort of building your character, building what equipment he or she's carrying in front of you on the table. It's important to note too that only cards on the table actually count for combat and bonuses. If it's in your hand, you can't normally play it out of your hand unless it's got special rules. So you got to put stuff down on the table so it's ready when you get attacked. But the downside is things on the table can then be targeted by the players to be stolen or anything else.
Right.
So there's definitely a sense of building a character in this game. You know, you're building a unique sort of thing.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I liked it.
And then at the end of your turn, you've got to discard down to your max hand size, which is 5. Now, I didn't notice getting a lot of cards in my hand very often, but if you did get more than 5 in your hand, you had to discard them. But the discarding rules are interesting. You can't just throw the cards in the discard pile. What do you have to do, Rafe?
Well, what you do is you get to hand them down to the lowest level character.
Right.
You actually hand the cards to them, and they get them.
Right. So if I'm level 1, everybody else is level 4 or 5 or 6, I will get all the charity from the table. So it's kind of a nice way to kind of give the guy in the last place a chance to catch up.
Russ, you didn't experience it for whatever reason. You would always be at the lower levels and then be catching up. But one of the games, I had like mass amounts of items and levels, and I was kicking butt. And when you're kicking butt and killing a lot of monsters, you get a lot of treasure cards, and that's when suddenly your hand fills up.
Hands overflowing. Okay, makes sense. So that's pretty much the whole turn. So really all it is you look in the door deck, you see if there's a monster. If there is, you fight it. If there's a curse, you get cursed. If there's not, you take it in your hand, you play whatever cards you're going to play, you look for some trouble, and then you search the room, and you go to the next player.
Okay.
Yes.
Why is there a treasure deck?
Well, because when you fight the monster, you can get treasure. So let's talk about the combat. So combat is very straightforward in this game. Basically, a monster shows up, and the monster card essentially says, the very first thing it says is what, Craig?
What level the monster is.
Right. So give us an example of a fun monster.
That
That you haven't already given.
I haven't already given. A level 20 plutonium dragon.
Nice. Okay. So some of the monsters, so it'll say level 20, plutonium dragon. Now, you have your own level, which is in front of you in some kind of counters, like little battle or figures or something.
Right.
Then you'll have any bonuses that are on the table also.
Like your +3 boots of ass kicking.
Right, your +3 boots of ass kicking. You might have
Or you
sword
could
that
have
gives you +2.
+3 boots of ass kicking a matic.
Right? A matic. Well, that's funny too. We made an amatic sword and everybody started stealing it. Or boots kicking the
That's
amatic.
another card that's called the amatic
Actually,
card,
it's my
which
title.
adds an addition +2.
I had an excessive title, which is
yeah.
+3, and then I made my excessive title an amatic title.
Excessive title amatic.
Right.
Yeah.
So what happens then is, so you add up all your bonuses plus your level. If it exceeds the monster's level,
Yep.
so if Craig can get to 21 on his plutonium dragon, he will defeat the dragon. When you kill a monster, you automatically gain a level. Some monsters say, if you beat me, you gain 2 levels instead of just 1.
Including the plutonium dragon.
Including the plutonium dragon. And on the monster's card, there's also a number of treasure cards you are going to gain if you manage to defeat the monster.
Which can be quite extensive.
So the plutonium dragon might be like 4 or 5, for example. So if Craig can get to 21, he kills the monster. He gets to draw 4 treasure cards. He gains his level or 2, depending on the monster. If he cannot kill the monster, if he's looking at his things and he's, I can't hit 20, you got 2 choices.
Yep.
You can try to call for help, one of the other people at the table, or you can attempt to flee.
Yes.
Right? How does calling for help work, Rafe?
Well, you just yell out, say, "Hey, anybody out there want to help me beat this monster?"
I can get to 12, and I need to get to 21.
So I can then add my level plus my bonuses to Craig's level and bonuses.
Yep.
But I might say, but I can bribe pretty much anything I want. I could say, give me 2 cards out of your hand. I could say I want half the treasure. I can say I want nothing, but I expect help later. And of course, you could may or may not actually give me help later. It's all verbal.
Right.
So this is where some of the metagaming comes in, and you're trying to convince. Now, the thing about it is if you help the other player, the player you're helping will still gain all the levels. The guy helping you does not, with one exception if you're the elf. That's a special elf rule. But if you're anybody else, you get nothing except whatever the guy agrees to give you.
Right.
Also noting, if you beat the monster with no help, all the treasure goes into your hands secretly. But if you beat the monster with help and agree to share the treasure, all the treasure must go face up and the entire table sees it, and then you and the player who helped you get to divide the treasure up however you're going to divide it up.
And we were playing that any amount of players could help, but the rules did say one other player.
We figured that error out halfway through. You can only one person supposed to help at a time, right?
I don't think there was a time when more than one person did help.
No, we didn't.
No.
Ray thought you were.
We thought we could, but then that was stopped.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically you can help. Now, if you flee, what happens is that you roll.
Which is different than losing. You should cover losing. So let's say it's the level 20.
Here's what happens. Here's what happens. So you're at level. You cannot beat level 20. So you say, I can't get there.
Let's say, for instance, you're at level 9.
Yes.
And you have a bunch of bonuses, and you get the plutonium dragon, and you look around the table and you say, "Can anybody help me?" And they all say, "No, Craig, we are not going to help you because that will cause you to win the game.
Right.
We are going to actually let you die so that Brad, who's going to go next, can win the game instead."
Yes.
Yes.
That's basically how that worked.
Yeah.
So now what also can happen, it's even worse. Here's a part of the backstory.
I tried helping you, Craig, if you remember.
I know, but you didn't have enough
So here's what can also happen. Let's say,
but I felt the love, man.
Let's say Craig can get to 18. The dragon's 20.
Yep.
Rafe says, "I'll help you. I can give you 5 more, and I'll get this to 25." So Rafe's agreed to help. You're both helping. You're about to win, but then Russ says, "Haha! I have a card that says
it's an ancient plutonium dragon,
which adds 10 to the level of the dragon." Now Rafe is already in the combat. He can't leave now because he's already said he's going to help. So now they both got to get to 30. Let's say they can't. Now they got to run. And here's how running works. You pick up that D6. Each player picks up the D6, and they roll it. And if they roll a 5 or 6, they will escape. And usually that means no effect, but some monsters can affect you even if you get away. If you don't get away, if you roll a 1 through 4, there's a little thing that says bad stuff on the bottom of the monster's card. And the bad stuff happens to you, and the other player doesn't roll either. So both Rafe would roll a D6 and Craig would roll a D6. If they both got away, great. If they didn't, they got hurt.
Yes.
And
some of the stuff for the dragon is it roasts you and eats you.
And some of the game balance that's nice in the game is like the level 20 dragon will say, will not pursue players that are below level 4, for example. So if I draw a level 20 dragon on level 1 and no hope, at least I'm not dead. I just get, okay, fine, he doesn't attack me, and I get nothing, but it doesn't kill me.
Right.
Most of the monsters, when they defeat you, the bad stuff usually lose 2 levels. But what can happen, of course, is that the dragon can, some of them do say kill you, which is even worse, because when you die, you lose all your cards, which is stinky.
Everything except race and class.
Right. So that's basically the combat. So basically, you got to fight to gain levels. That's the most common way to gain levels. But there's other cards that can give you levels too. Now, the other thing we should have mentioned, which I did not mention in your turn, there's one other way to gain levels, and that is during your turn, all the item cards you carry, like boots and swords and everything, have a gold piece value on the bottom, right?
Yeah.
And you can trade those in for money, but you don't get to keep the money. Instead, for every full 1,000 of gold you trade in, you gain a level.
Right.
But one key part of the game is you can only win the game if you get your final level either by defeating a monster or by one particular card called Divine Intervention. So you can't buy your way to your 10th level. You got to earn the 10th
And Divine Intervention only helps you if you're a cleric.
Right.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought we just kept pulling the cleric one.
No.
Oh, okay.
So that's pretty much the game right there. That's the whole thing. So all
Very
that's left
simple
is
game.
All that's left really is what are the kind of card types. We talked about this already. There's monster cards. You fight those. Some of them are very simple. Just this level guy, kill him. Here's the bad stuff. Some of them are like he's really nasty because the blob is like nasty against elves because he's all sticky. So elves have -3 level against him. Or there's different effects depending on your race.
The fluffy bunny is -4 against females because they don't want to hurt the bunny.
Right. So there's all kinds of little things like, the itsy bitsy spider is
yeah.
level 1, but it's like level 6 against females.
Yeah.
Little things like that. So that's the monsters. There's items that you can carry, and the items are kind of neat. There's like swords and headgear and footwear and armor. and some of them on the bottom say a number of hands they take. So, for example, like it'll say one-handed or two-handed weapons, so you can only carry one hand.
Small
each.
or big.
Big, you can only carry one big item unless you're a dwarf. Things like that. And then there's your race, and the races give you different things. Like the halfling, for example, whatever you sell for leveling counts as double.
Once per turn, you can do that with one card.
Right, doubles. But then the other thing is the halfling runs at -1 speed.
-1 speed, so you
there's
need
dice.
a 6.
So you need a 6 to get over the halfling.
Yeah.
Unless you have the loaded dice card, which I had.
Yes.
You can play loaded dice, you can turn the die to whatever number you need, which is kind of funny.
Once,
yeah.
But yeah.
And then there's a class which is like warrior, and the warrior's ability is that he can discard cards for bonuses. Ties win, yeah. Things like that. So there's all different kinds of. There's a thief who you can discard cards to steal other people's stuff, and so there's all kinds of different little nuances in the classes and everything. And it's really about trying to build up the right combination of stuff in front of you, and then getting to level 10 first and kind of tweaking your neighbor.
Yep.
So any comments on the basic mechanics before we start getting into
where would traps and curses go in?
Oh, there are card types too. I forgot to mention that. Curses and traps. Curses, they play on you if you draw them when you're kicking the door in. Otherwise, you play them on your opponent during the game. Right. They'll tell you when.
And I love that ancient. And there's a couple different cards that add monster levels. Ancient, armored. Somebody got the egg, which was funny because then I believe Russ threw the ancient down. But that's an ancient egg. And it went from level 1 to level 11.
Now, this was a funny scene. So Ragnar, here's a game of how the game can screw each other. So Ragnar has this level, whatever it is, egg. And I play make it level 11, which I don't think Ragnar can win. But then Ragnar has a card that says I can steal something from an opponent and use it and have it forever if stealing it will let me beat this monster. And Ragnar can get like to a 9. And if he played this card, he could steal one of the things I had and get to the 12. So it ended up by doing that to him.
Impressive title-o-matic, I believe.
Yes, he was able to steal one of my best items and beat the monster too, and I lost my item. So it's kind of like, it's sort of like reminding me a little bit of Cutthroat there, where it's like edge out and counter, and that was kind of neat. So there's a little bit of that in there too. So it's a really interesting game, and I think it's pretty funny. The best part about it is the humor on the cards.
Yes.
So let's talk about it. Let's give it our reviews, and when we're reviewing it, let's talk about it versus Cutthroat Caverns, and let's talk about was Cutthroat Caverns inspired by this game? Because obviously Munchkin came first, or are they really just totally different games? Craig, you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. I love anything that makes fun of gamers.
Do you ever notice that? I've noticed that.
I guess I have to have a disclosure. I'm a gamer. My name is Craig, and I'm a gamer. You guys are supposed to say, hi, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Thanks.
Welcome, Craig.
Yeah, there you go. And there's a lot of really funny stuff you'll remember from like when you first started playing Dungeons and Dragons at the age of 8, that kind of stuff. I found it, and it's more frustrating to me because both times we played, the first time we played, I got a race card late, and I got a class card late. So I had a whole bunch of stuff in my hand that I couldn't use because there's like, the pointy hat of wizardry, you can only use it if you're a wizard.
Right.
The dagger of backstabbing trechery, you can only use it if you're a thief.
The stinky tuna sandwich only for a halfling.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So I had a bunch of stuff, but I couldn't use any of it because there's literally no control over that character generation. That's why my response to there's character generation is like, it's all luck of the draw. There's literally you've got no control over that. And the second time we played, I had no race or class card the entire game. Now I almost won, so you don't need it. But it's almost, you feel like you're kind of missing out on a whole mechanic of the game because you've got no control over that at all.
Yeah.
So that was kind of frustrating. On the other hand, it's got that same element as Cutthroat Caverns where going into it that it's a crazy screw your neighbor game and you just can't take it that seriously.
Yes.
So you go in with that mindset and I did that. I had fun. Do I think that it inspired Cutthroat Caverns? No.
I don't think so either.
I think Cutthroat Caverns is its own. I mean, no, I don't.
Right.
No. So
do you think it compares to Cutthroat Caverns, or should it be considered its own?
Only
thing?
insofar as things like Uno compare to Cutthroat Caverns.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, there's that whole screw your neighbor mentality that's built right into the game. and it's fantasy. So, I mean, there are elements that are similar, but I think Cutthroat Caverns is a deeper game. I think there's more thought into the game mechanics and far less thought into the tongue-in-cheek, funny, satirical elements, which there are a little bit of in Cutthroat Caverns, but far more of it in Munchkin. And I also think Munchkin, you're sitting down to a quick game that's going to probably take half hour to an hour, maybe.
Right.
If it's 5 or 6 people who know how to play, whereas Cutthroat Caverns is probably going to be a longer game and has the potential of being a much longer game, depending on the monsters that come up.
So, do you want to rate it now or wait to the end?
I will give Munchkin. I love Russ so much. I'm going to emulate him.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to give it 2 ratings.
Here we go.
Huh.
Okay.
Wait, before you rate it.
Okay.
Rafe, please describe the D6 generation patent pending rating system for new listeners. Go.
Okay. If you're a new listener, on a D6, if you need to roll to make your Terminator armor save of a 2+, that's really good. You should be able to do that, unless you bonk out like Craig and you roll a 1. So if we give a rating of a 2+, that's
not
a
hateful
really good
it's
review
true.
rating for us. And if you have a reroll in there, well, everybody knows what that means. That's how I explain it, folks.
The number on the D6 you need to roll to enjoy the game, the average gamer, right? So if there's 6 players standing in a row, and Craig said he thinks people would like this game on a 4+. He hasn't. It's just an example.
Yeah.
Then we're saying that probably half the people in that row would probably like the game.
Correct.
Right. So, Craig, what would you rate Munchkin?
Well, if you are an old-time gamer, then you've been playing D&D since the little pastel boxes first came out.
With the crayon?
With the crayon for the dice.
I think it's a wax crayon, to be specific.
Okay.
I think they're all wax.
Well, you like to say grease pencil, so I was trying to play off of that.
Okay.
It's a grease crayon. You know the 4-sided, Craig? You'd color it in.
Uh-huh.
And the wax would fill in the indent in the 1.
Yep.
And you'd have to take a tissue and wipe the rest off.
I do.
It was like that.
Fondly. I remember it fondly.
Like it was yesterday.
Sniff.
Yesterday.
Craig, what would you rate this game?
All our troubles.
All my dice seemed so far away.
Well, that's why you're the theater guy. That's 10 times better than what I came up with.
Wow, shucks.
Oh, I'm puking. What would you rate this game, Craig?
If you're a gamer, you've been a gamer for a long time, you just like to have some fun with some friends, I think this is probably going to be a 2+.
Wow.
I don't know how often you're going to play it.
Yeah.
But every now and then having this game, I think your friends are just going to enjoy it. It's just a really fun game. Now, if you're a hardcore War Machine tournament player, I think this is more likely to be like a 4+.
Wow.
Where you're going to sit down, and it's going to depend on the people that you're with, and it's going to depend on your frame of mind in any given moment. You're not going to like the randomness. You're not going to like the fact that you could have your hand management. You could have everything you need in place, and then somebody's going to throw that ancient card down, and there's no hope for you, and you suddenly lose the whole game. And so if you're that kind of tournament mentality, winner takes all, kind of win at all costs kind of guy, I'm thinking 4+ at the outside.
All right. Well,
it's a good rating.
Okay. Well, I'll go on to mine, and then we'll save the best for last. Hollywood will be last.
Shucks.
So here's my thoughts real quick. I think it's very, very strong on the humor and the satire theme, as Craig pointed out, and the artwork is just a really nice dovetail into that. The game is really, I think, predominantly, you're buying this game for the jokes on the cards. It's almost like a comic book game. It's all about looking through the cards and seeing the cool funniness on the cards. The game's almost just like an excuse to look at these pictures and read the jokes. The mechanics are very, very simple and straightforward. There's not enough depth in the mechanics. Here's the thing I think that's missing for me that makes Cutthroat a stronger card game, and that is there's a really simple mechanic in Cutthroat that says at the end of a combat with a monster, you can discard any number of cards in your hand and redraw.
Right.
That ability to shuffle through cards and to hunt for cards and manage your hand is key. There isn't a mechanic like that in Munchkin. If you've got a bad hand and you're not getting lucky with kicking in the doors, there's really nothing you can do. There's no strategy you can employ other than begging people for cards to get a better hand, right? There's no discard, there's no redraw. Unless you beat a monster to get the treasure, there's really no easy way, except for hunting for the room one a turn. So I think that makes it, there's not as much of a strategic working there. And I think the card distribution also in the game of the different types of cards is not as well. I mean, the game's primarily a joke. So there's not as many, the distribution is such like in Cutthroat, you're going to get combat cards enough to be able to do something. In Munchkin, like Craig said, you can get hand locked basically where you have nothing. And there's not much you can do.
And it's easy to get that.
I mean, especially in the early game, but even as you go along, it's very easy to get.
And with a
scrap.
hand limit of 5, you don't have a lot of leeway either.
Right. So there's not much room to work. Not to say it's not fun and humorous and interesting, but it's in terms of like raw game mechanics and strategies, there's not a lot of options to the player. There's not a lot of tactics available to you. You can help and hurt your friends, but I didn't feel like it was integral to the game like I feel in Cutthroat Caverns. There's I can help Rafe if he begs me, and if I beg him, Rafe can help me. But also, the game can be played just fine if we all just sort of tunnel visioned what we were doing and ignored each other. Right. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Not that people would. I think it'll be more social than that, but the game mechanics don't require that aspect of the game. Whereas in Cutthroat, if you do that tunnel vision thing and ignore each other, the game, you're all dead.
Right.
So, all that said, is Cutthroat really Munchkin Mark II? And this, I think, I had some of the same points Craig did, and I kind of hid my thing so Craig
I couldn't read
do his own thing.
Couldn't see it.
And no, and he'd agree with a lot of things I was going to say. First of all, while Cutthroat is sort of tongue-in-cheek, obviously if you read the rules, it's tongue-in-cheek, and it's the big item of mysterious power and all that. It's a more serious game, though. The artwork's dark, the monsters look evil, you feel like you're in trouble. Munchkin is clearly satire all the way through. It's not to be taken seriously at any point. The components in Cutthroat Caverns are much nicer. The cards, as I mentioned, are shiny, they're full color.
The artwork's incredible.
The artwork's phenomenal. Not to say that the Dork Tower artwork's not really cute and perfect for what Munchkin is.
Exactly.
But there's just it's a different kind of thing. It's like trying to compare, Garfield to the Mona Lisa. It's a totally different kind of genre.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, Cutthroat Caverns is also significantly more expensive than Munchkin. Mm-hmm. So you're getting what you're paying for there. Cutthroat also comes with all the pieces you need, great counters, little clear little markers and everything. Whereas Munchkin, you need some fiddly bits to help you out. So Munchkin feels more like a bargain game, but it is a bargain game. So
right.
I also feel like the co-op and screw your friend in Cutthroat is mandatory. There's Rafe mentioned he was able to kind of be friendly the whole game. In Cutthroat Caverns, that's just not an option. You're going to lose if you're friendly the whole time. If you never try to kill the monster and always, here you go, you can have the monster, you just won't win. Although in Cutthroat Caverns, you're not really building your characters. We mentioned before, and Kurt mentioned this in the interview, Cutthroat Caverns, everybody's sort of generic.
Yeah.
There's that one little feat, but every character's the same, essentially. Whereas in Munchkin, the game is really about what cards you get, how you equip your character, and what you put your character. The monsters are almost secondary, whereas in Cutthroat, the monsters are the primary thing, and the characters are all just sort of an excuse to be fighting it, really.
But as a strength with Munchkin, though, that really doesn't work for me, mainly because of that luck factor.
Yeah, I'm thinking of it. It reminded me of Talisman a little bit, where there's this little character building element in Talisman that I thought was cool when I was 10. But now that I don't like Talisman because it's all roll. It's like Monopoly. You roll around, you just show up and you pick something up. And Munchkin sort of has that feeling a little bit too, where you build this really interesting character and it's kind of like, ooh, I'm the half-elf fighter and you're the wizard, but it's all random and you could get nothing. You could go as
right.
no
It's not real. I don't know. I can't really put it into words, but it's not really character building because it's like the luck of the draw, and that's who you are, and you might be character building.
Yeah.
That might be part of your game.
Yeah.
But your game might be like I had the dagger, I had the hat, at one point I had the dagger, the hat, and the sandwich, which are all completely useless. I mean, you could sell them for points.
Well,
for money.
I totally agree with you. I think the only thing I'm saying is that in Cutthroat, you really don't carry anything.
There's none,
except for the relics, which is the new expansion thing. But pretty much there's no carrying anything
that's
else.
very true.
But here's, I think, the primary difference. It really comes down to them, as you mentioned, they're different games and there's different focuses. Munchkin all the creative genius that is Munchkin is in the humor.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, that's the brilliance of the game. Those cards are hilarious. The commentary they're making on the gaming community and all the things is just really great. That's where the genius of the game is. The mechanics are, again, as I said earlier, just an excuse to read those cards.
Right.
Whereas Cutthroat, the genius is really in the mechanics of the monsters. Each monster fights totally different.
Right.
And in fact, when I was playing at Chris's Games Day, we found some new traps that were faced before. One of the traps, you take all the hands of cards from all the players at the table, you put them into a 6x6 grid face down, and you play concentration trying to breach you out of the trap. You take damage. Or like another one, treasures show up and they start dancing around the table fighting. You got to knock the weapons out of the sky. And it's like just totally wacky, crazy mechanics for each monster. So the creativity in Cutthroat is in the mechanics of the monster, and the creativity in Munchkin is same mechanics for every monster, no variation at all except for occasional little special tweak. Really, it's all about the humor on the cards.
Yep.
And you see that in the expansions, too. In the Cutthroat expansions, you got these wackier, more crazy traps and things, whereas in Munchkin, you just got more and more humor cards.
Funny cards.
Yeah, funny cards. But Munchkin is a much faster playing game, and it's a great filler game because it is so fast and short. And as I mentioned before, both expansions to both games really just make your decks of cards huge. But the difference is, I think, primarily if you play, even with different humor cards, the mechanics of Munchkin doesn't change. It doesn't ever feel different. Whereas with Cutthroat, when you start adding those event cards and like that little dungeon room thing and stuff, it really changes and grows the rules and the core experience of the game.
My fear with the Munchkin expansions is that what you're really doing is diluting your deck to the point where, like, you've got the Need for Steed in there, which is great, except that now instead of just whatever it was, 112 cards, now you've got 228 cards.
Yeah.
And
Actually, I have a bullet point on that, but keep going.
Well, I can't see your bullet points either.
No, that's cool. No, keep going.
So you're less likely, if you need a combo of two things, you're even less likely to get what you need. So it's almost like there needs to be some mechanic in Munchkin for when you're using expansions to build the deck first.
Yeah.
So you've got a certain ratio of what you need in there, because it seems to me like if we played with all the expansions that we were sent by our lovely listeners, I mean, that would have been stacks of cards so high they wouldn't stand on their own,
well,
first of all.
I mean, and Cutthroat's sort of the same because there's so many encounter cards you can't play them all. But what happens, though, with Cutthroat, the way the system works is you just get 9 random monsters.
Yeah.
So it'd be a different experience every time.
Whereas as someone said to me, I think I'll pop in on that bullet point now rather than later. What someone said, which makes a lot of sense, what Craig is saying is exactly true. If you put 5 expansions, the deck will stand, a foot and a half tall, and you're just diluting your cards. So what someone said, the way they played that was each expansion was its own door stack and its own treasure stack. And therefore you could play... So let's say there's 3 stacks there, 3 door stacks, 3 treasure stacks. Then you could play whatever door you want, whatever treasure stack.
All right, you can do that too.
So that might work.
Yeah, the only problem, we might know what's in each stack and kind of, I don't know. But I think that that's just the way the game is, and it's just a silly game. And for my rating, I would say that I'm not going to be quite as generous as Craig. But again, I've said before on the show, I'm not really into games that are overly random. I do not like it as much as Cutthroat because there's not enough. There's player interaction, but it doesn't feel as integral to the game to me for some reason. I don't know why that is. I know a lot of people like Munchkin because of the interaction, but I think Cutthroat handles it more elegantly. I'm going to say I would give it a 4+ if you like silly fun games, and I would give it a 5+ if you don't like silly fun games.
I'd like to rephrase mine because mine's not really a 2+. Mine's like a 2+ if you
back it up, backpedal it. So I was gonna say 2+ is pretty damn good. Want to put a reroll on that?
I think it's worth a 2+.
No, I'm explaining who gets that 2+. That 2+ is people who've been
Steve Jackson gets 2+ on that one.
That's true. 2+ is for people who've been playing these role-playing games since they were 10. And the very first time they sit down to play this, I think most of the people who fall into that category are going to have fun with it.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to want to play a lot after that.
That's, I think, the biggest weakness is replayability in this game.
Yeah.
Once you've seen all the jokes, or most of the jokes, it's like a comic book.
That's why
that was
so
a
many
great
expansions.
bullet you had that I think you
skipped over it. Right. I don't think it's as replayable as Cutthroat because of that. with Cutthroat, the people you have and how you're going to tweak each other is going to make a difference.
Yeah.
Munchkin, once you've seen the jokes, I think the mechanics aren't strong enough to carry the game without the jokes.
Right.
I agree with Craig and disagree with Russ, and I'm not trying to pick on Russ.
All right, go. Why don't you jump in?
So here's my things. I mean, I respect his opinion, but for the perfect
Look, you don't have to suck up to me, okay? I'm extremely confident.
I think the perfect segue for me is he says it's too random. That's why I love it. I love this game. It's right up my alley. A fun type of loose game. I think it is replayable because they have so many expansions, because of exactly what you both have said, which I concur. The jokes are in the cards. So yes, after you've played the main deck, I don't know, 10 times, you're going to be bored because you'll know all the jokes. What I did, as far as I didn't think of this game as comparing it to Cutthroat in my head, because to me, yes, they both involve cards. Yes, they both have a screw your neighbor component, but to me, Cutthroats is like if you're in the mood for Chinese food, you play Cutthroat. If you're in the mood for Italian food, you play Munchkin, meaning it's two different moods.
Again, comparing the Italians. They're not
derogatory
terms. Would you stop that?
Right, yeah.
Any emails from the Hollywood?
I'm telling you. It's two different games. It's not the same game. So in my head, there's not a comparison other than like what Greg said. You can compare Uno to it.
Yeah.
If anything,
I get the comparison. You're in a dungeon. You're fighting monsters. You're kicking open doors.
Yes.
There's a screw your opponent. I mean, you can see why people are like, when they hear Cutthroat Caverns and they play Munchkin, not Cutthroat, they're like, that kind of sounds like Munchkin to me. You can see why, right?
Yes.
Why they make that leap. Yeah.
But to me, they're two different games.
I agree.
Two different games, two different moods for me.
Absolutely.
What I want to play.
Yes.
What I did like about it is I on purpose tried the nice guy mechanic, which was I wasn't going to screw anybody. I was going to help everybody. And that worked. Totally worked. I won. I won the first game. I jumped up and down. I hooted. I hollered.
Yes, he did.
He did hoot.
There was excessive celebration.
There was.
Yeah.
He strapped it on.
A lot of people know that I like Killer Bunnies. I would play this game 10 times over Killer Bunnies because Killer Bunnies has like zero strategy. It's just the jokes are in the cards. This game has some sort of strategy, and plus, we're role players.
I would actually argue the jokes are better in this game than in Killer Bunnies.
Yeah,
also,
I would say.
I'm not even sure I see the jokes in Killer Bunnies.
Half the time, I think you have to be an utterly random adolescent boy to get half the jokes in Killer Bunnies.
I have to kind of say, people say, Ray, if you like Killer Bunnies, I play Killer Bunnies with Lou. I don't play Killer Bunnies with you.
He's got a disclaimer.
You know what I mean? It's great to play with kids.
Yeah,
they think it's hilarious.
I've seen you play it at Empire back in the day with Empire Games and adults.
I played it once to see what the mechanics were, but it was boring.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we've my next bullet point we talked about the cards are fun to read for a gamer. What's fun is when you play with Ragnar and you're playing with your buddies. And they're like, oh, look, a cute little egg. It's all that. It's all those little jokes that you make, and it's all those inside jokes as playing. I really want to borrow the game after we've done a review. I want to see if it's Louable. In other words, I want to see someone who's becoming a budding gamer, if he'll think it's fun, or will he think it's not fun when it's like, oh, Dad, come on, don't take me out. He might not like the opposing part of it.
Right. But he also probably isn't going to get most of the jokes because
he'll get right through the jokes.
They're so based on
Chicken on the Head
experience.
You can't go wrong with Chicken. It's timeless. Chicken on the Head.
I think you're right.
Chicken on the Head is timeless.
I think Craig's right. I don't think he'll get the jokes, but I think he'll like the idea of like he has a wizard and then it has a sword and
the badass bandana. You can't go wrong. Some of the jokes are pretty much
like that, but I want to see
themselves.
Wrong.
Right? I bet he'll like it.
The Gentleman's Club.
Yeah, I liked the
stoned Gollum.
The broadsword only can be used by a woman.
Yeah, those will go over.
Some of the jokes could be construed as sexist, but it's all in good fun.
It's the type that will go. He'll think it's a stoned Gollum. They do the Disney Pixar type of joke.
Right. Like strap it on.
I thought it bogged down with 5 players. I liked it best with 3. With 5, it was harder to read all the cards. It was harder. There was a little bit of gamer downtime, especially when people are looting through treasure. And I like playing the 2.6 rule, second rule, which you said was in the rule book actually, which is What was it, Russ? If you take longer than 2.6 seconds, something happens.
Yeah, but it's a joke. I mean, right? The whole rule.
But it's in the rule book.
Well, yes.
I know. But, we would do that when somebody was kind of agonizing over which card to keep or something. Right. We were like, come on, let's go, move it along.
Well, it's got the thing like Cutthroat has, which is, you can play these counter cards in the cards. And so the question always is, how long do you wait before you do something else that's no longer, cancel the thing that happened? So
right.
There's a little joke in there that's 2.6 seconds, which is clearly a joke. But
Yep. And so I already talked about my last thing, which was just using the different door piles and the different treasure piles for all the different expansions. I thought it was a great game. I really liked it. I want to play it again. I'm actually thinking of buying it. I don't know which one. I might get the Spy one. I might get the Mission Impossible one. I don't know with some of the boosters. Of course, the reason why I'll buy it is I want to see if it's doable, and it's the type of thing that I might be able to play out my way, where I don't have a local gaming group other than Tuesday nights. And you guys won't buy it, so that's a good reason, to buy it.
There you go.
In case we might want to play Munchkin again.
I don't know. You know what? It is appealing about the game to me, and I've considered the cowboy one because again, as I've said in the show, I really like cowboys, and the satire is so funny that I kind of want to see.
Yeah,
what the cowboy humor is like.
There is that element.
It's got Ray. If you talked about this when we reviewed Atomic Robo, right? And you're like, $20 for a comic book, and you read it once, but it's still fun to read it. And these games are really like a comic book joke card game.
Yes.
So you play it, it's funny, and then you put it away for a couple minutes, play it again, the jokes would be sort of fresh again. It's like, I remember. It's like watching an old movie that's got great lines.
Yes, exactly.
So there is an appeal there to these games that are great, and I understand why they're very popular. It's
totally.
But you really want to focus on the fact it's not the mechanics that make this a great game; it's the humor on the cards that make these games fun.
I concur. And to be honest with you, I wasn't annoyed at the mechanics.
No, they're not awful. It's just they're not deep.
No, it's not Cutthroat Caverns.
Yeah,
I wasn't. I wasn't upset when I got killed. You're right back in the game. You still can win it.
So how would you rate this thing?
Can I respectfully point out that you missed one of your bullet points that's been intriguing me for about 15 minutes now?
Sure. Which is
but not if enjoying beer and cake.
Ah, yes. Okay.
What?
I don't know. But look, it says...
I didn't even see that.
Played the 2.6 second rule, but not if enjoying beer and cake.
So what's the cake?
All right. What that means is... if you don't mind, if you're just hanging out with your buds, drinking beer and eating cake, and you don't mind that somebody's agonizing over what card they're going to discard, it doesn't matter because you're shooting the crap among friends while you're waiting that happens, while you're enjoying beer and cake.
That was my head on the
the
mic.
sound of Russ beating his head with a
Where
mic.
does the cake come in?
Well, sometimes you're having coffee and cake and some with your buds, and sometimes you're drinking beer with your buds.
Not pretzels.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Because I think beer and cake would be gross.
How would you rate this thing, Granger?
3+ with a reroll.
3+ the reroll for all gamers. Wow, nice. All right.
No. Not for all gamers.
For him.
You get that all wrong.
Oh, that's right. 3+ the reroll.
I like it on a 3+ with a reroll.
Okay.
So all those massive emails that I get with people like Hollywood, dude, you are the man. We think just like you. And Russ and Craig, those guys are buffoons. They would like this game on a 3+ with a reroll.
Okay, there you go. If you agree with Granger, it's a 3+ the reroll. All right, that is Munchkin.
I'm Rafe Hollywood Granger, and this is the Hollywood Minute, brought to you by Bashenko, who gives a shout-out to Weedy. Thanks for putting up with me. And to Rafe for pronouncing my name correctly in the last episode. Well, Bashenko, here's hoping I did it right this time, too. Okay, so last episode, I jokingly explained how you should tell your girl when you're going out gaming. But if you need another approach, here is a good way, too. I have no idea if this method will work for you and your significant other, but it works for me. Okay, before I tell you how I communicate with my wife on gaming, you do have to know a little bit about my past, because you realize all advice you are given by anyone other than a trained professional is always tainted by that person's experiences. So here I go. In my first marriage, I married right out of college, and had this vision that when married you were two individuals that blended and became one, known as the married couple. Like two trees that grow into one tree. You even see this kind of imagery in Hallmark cards and stuff. Was I wrong? Let's start there. I have learned that although married, it is important for each person to retain their own identity. We are not two trees that grow into one, but instead two individuals that are just that. Two individual people with their own wants, wishes, needs, and desires that are now living a life together. Now, these two individual lives obviously intersect like two circles where the two curves meet just a little in the middle. Okay, that's great, HD. Thanks for all this wonderful marriage experience based on your random life, you might be thinking. What the heck does this mean to my gaming? Well, here is what it means. I don't ask for permission to do the gaming things or other things that I want to do. It's not up to my wife, it's up to me. If I want to go to Shea Fleury's gaming night, I inform my wife that I'm planning on going. I don't wheedle, whine, beg, or ask sweetly. I merely tell my wife that I was planning on going. What? Gasp! You tell your wife you are going? I cannot believe it, you say. In this day and age, no one seems to tell their wife anything. Okay, calm down. I don't demand it or storm about the house. Just when we're matching up calendars, I say, hey, Chris is having one of his game nights in May on blah blah blah. What does our calendar look like? No different than when my wife tells me she has a board meeting for the nonprofit she volunteers for. And that right there is usually one of the problems with gaming versus, quote, real, end quote, life. If your wife, girlfriend, paramour does not put gaming on the same level as her thing, which at first blush one might think is more important, like volunteering somewhere, then that too is another segment. I am doing this segment at the level where the wife, girlfriend, paramour, significant other understands that those two things, gaming and volunteering, are equal to each of you. Well, okay. Hey, so I'm planning on going to Chris's party. I say to my wife, what's in your book? Now, if she says, oh, well, Nana is coming over, and after that it's Lou's baseball game, well, now I have to balance. Am I going to be here for Nana or my son's game, or go to Chris's party late at night? This is an individual choice based on whatever else I might have going on. So, that's basically about it. I decide what gaming things I want to do, check in with the family schedule of things, and balance it with my goals of having me time with my family time. If I have not had a lot of quality me time, I go to Chris's game day. If I've truthfully been getting some good me time in, I remember I have responsibilities to people other than me, my wife and kids. I do this myself without making my wife tell me. The wives talk about this a lot in their segments. To get more in life, you have to start by giving. I also practice what I preach. If my wife needs she time, I fully support that. And I check in on how she feels about me being gone for gaming. In the above example, I will ask, how do you feel about me missing Nana's visit in the baseball game? She might not even care for this time. Or, sometimes she just really, really wants me to be there. Well, folks, that is why you have a wife, girlfriend, significant other, or paramour. Sometimes they might actually want to be with you. And with you with your head in the game. So you have to decide, be there or not. But be careful. If you really want to go gaming, you really feel you need to go, and you don't, you put your family first, well, I could be wrong, but you probably might feel resentful about it. You might feel your significant other always makes the call and you cave, or that you're stuck with your mother-in-law, or your head's not in the game and you're not in the moment. Well, that's no fun for you or your family. If you need a day for yourself, speak up for yourself. The point is, by talking openly about it and being honest with yourself and your spouse, saying something like, yes, I really need to go gaming. I'm stressed at work and I need to vent. And when asked how long you'll be away, tell him. Tell him, I probably will game all day and won't be home till after midnight. You'd be surprised, with the right woman, just by telling the truth, you'll feel much better about it, especially when you are off gaming. It's no fun to tell your spouse, I'll be home at 10 p.m. when you know deep down in your gut you want to be home whenever the game ends, which might be 3 a.m. And the whole time you're grinding that game out, you're feeling guilty as the time clock ticks past midnight. Now, If you're listening to this and your spouse, girlfriend, significant other, etc., is constantly giving you grief about your gaming with statements like, I don't understand why you need to be away all day, or how come you always want to be with your friends and not with me, or go ahead and go gaming, I'm okay with it, but you know when you come home she's not okay with it and you'll pay for it somehow later, or she says, well, my volunteering stuff is way more important than your gaming stuff. These issues are not covered in this segment and are of a different bird altogether. Perhaps I'll cover those in another segment. For now, just remember, don't ask, tell. Be considerate to your partner, and remember your own desires and goals are yours and you have a right to them. So talk about it, communicate effectively with each other, be honest with each other. Now is not the time to lie to cover feelings. You won't be happy, and in the end, your significant other won't be happy. So that's it. That's how I do it. Happy gaming. Oh, and my little extra love this segment? Here's what's on my playlist. For better, for worse. Right Round, Crazy, and I have to spell it now for those little ears that are listening. Crazy, B-I-T-C-H, and Heartless. Download them if you want to be like me.
Need to add a big unit to your current force and don't feel like painting that many grunts? Or maybe you want to start a new army and really don't have time to paint it up. That's where PaintedFigs.com can help. For 3 years, their staff with over 20 years of experience in the industry have been providing gamers with high-quality, affordable paint jobs on miniatures from the most popular games, including Flames of War, Warhammer 40,000, Fantasy, War Machine, Hordes, and even a variety of board games. Their full-service packages include the cost of the models themselves at wholesale prices, assembly, painting, and basing. Because they're able to get the models wholesale, you end up with a package appearing on your doorstep full of ready-to-play models at only the fraction over their retail price. Their name says what they do. PaintedFigs.com. High-quality miniature painting at the lowest rates on Earth, even with shipping. Be sure to let them know the D6 generation sent you.
When wives attack.
Hello, this is Karen, Craig's wife.
And this is Nicole, Russ's wife. And our shout-out this week is happy 22nd birthday, Keith, from Dad and Kevin. Sorry this one's a little late. And since we're wishing Keith a happy birthday, Karen. Today is Karen's birthday. Are you going to tell everyone how old you are, or are you not going to tell us?
I am 33 today.
Karen is 33 today. Woo! Go, Karen.
And I just said before we got on that, you know you're old when you're all excited because your birthday gift is a new front storm door. And you can't wait for it.
I'm kind of jealous. I'm like, man, I could use a new front door, too.
I can't wait. So excited.
So that's,
Excuse my voice. I'm still getting over my jet lag.
Karen's a little bit jet lagged coming back from China. Yeah. So she is jet lagged. But she's with us and she seems relatively coherent. I made her yawn a few times before we got on air. So she'd maybe make it through the whole segment. Let's see. First thing I wanted to mention, Facebook. We mentioned that on air. And woohoo! Everyone's going on there.
I think when I left, it was at, 84?
I thought it was like at 80-something, and I looked like an hour before we recorded this, and it's at 136, which is a huge number of people. And there's some really funny threads on there. I mean, if you're not a Facebook guy, like Russ will not get a Facebook account. Yeah. I got him to read stuff, though.
Yeah, that's how Craig will read it.
Because he thought it was hilarious. There were two things. There was this, one of them, there's a discussion called An Untempered Schism by this guy, Rob. If you are a Doctor Who fan, you have to read this because I can't even read the whole thing. It's so long, but it is the most hilarious post I've ever read. Russ was laughing out loud, snorting his Diet Coke, reading this post. And now we're off to try and make the drink that he suggested.
Oh, Craig will love that. I can make him read that.
You have to tell Craig to read it. He'll read it. Rafe has mentioned, Russ has mentioned. They're all Time Lords. They will love it.
We haven't seen it I haven't checked it out since I got back, but I will also be adding pictures because Craig took meeple pictures all over China.
He did. Do we have a meeple on the Great Wall?
No, that's the one he didn't do.
God,
I have no idea.
Oh, Craig, you slacker. The best picture ever.
I assumed he did because he was taking them all over and they were great. And I'm like, it was.
And we have no meeple Great Wall.
And then at the end of the week, I was like, in the Great Wall. And he's like, oh, no, well, that's like the one I didn't do. And I'm like,
The Great Wall? You think China. If you're American, you think China, you think the Great Wall. That's all there is there.
So I'm pretty sure he did not, but there's like 6 other ones, so I'm going to post them. They're pretty,
Okay,
they're in front of like big Buddhist pagodas and stuff, so it's pretty cool.
Very cool. Well, so now if there's any of our listeners who are in China or Chinese or going, you have to take a picture of a meatball and find the Great Wall.
We're missing that one.
That one piece of the China visit. And I also wanted to mention someone on Facebook that just cracked me up to no end, Daniel Dyer, who is my chainsaw-wielding wildland firefighter, who I said that is just the coolest job ever. Like, he wields a chainsaw, he sets fires for good, and I checked with him on this. He is prepared for the zombie apocalypse. So, and he carries his chainsaw everywhere. He promises me. So we are all set.
The jobs are the coolest on that.
There's a listing with like an introduction. You guys are the most interesting group of people.
Yeah.
I thought it would be all like the same. I don't know what I thought it was going to be.
Office jobs. You just think
office jobs. You'd all be in an office.
Yeah.
You'd all write code at computers or something. But no, there's like everything. There's every walk of life you can imagine. I know Karen hasn't looked at it, but there's probably like 10 more up there since you last looked, and it's crazy cool. And they even started their own achievements in gaming section.
That's very cool.
And I put up mine, and you know what mine was? We have a new game that I'll talk about later called Small World. I beat Russ, and then I beat him again.
Very nice.
He beat me by 2 points. Then, and this is my real big achievement, I played with Russ and his brother John. The combined power of the Wakeland boys crumbled before me. I beat them both.
Nice.
I beat them both soundly. I was very, very excited, and they mocked my strategy and everything, and I won. So that game counted like 4 times over.
Yeah, very nice.
The best game ever.
There was a Craig will probably mention there. I didn't play, but there was a Carcassonne played on the sleeper train out of Beijing to whatever the next city
went
to.
How did you miss that, Karen?
No, he was playing. We had like a boys' room and a girls' room with the family that runs the travel thing that we go with. So he was playing with the little boy. I didn't even know before we went to bed. I walked in and the map was all over the little sleeper train table. It was tiny.
Who took that with them to?
Craig does.
Craig packed that?
He doesn't pack the box. He takes the cards out because you can shove them in a suitcase.
That makes sense.
And then he played a little bit on the floor of the train station in Beijing. He played Wings of War.
Yeah?
Yeah, so he played that. The little boy Alex, he's probably like 10 or 12 or something. So he did get those 2 games in China.
So he still got his gamer fix while he was there.
He did, a little bit.
I suppose there were like game stores around China.
We didn't see any.
That sounds like a weird question.
Lots of, we didn't, it's a different government, so we weren't sort of like as free walking around. Yeah, it was a little more controlled. So we didn't kind of explore. Didn't really talk to the guides or anything about gaming, but Mahjong obviously was just everywhere.
Do you know that is one of the first games I ever played on a computer?
I love
Russ
that game.
had it on the computer at Virginia Tech, and I remember going to visit him one summer, and it was something you could play online with like other people and stuff, and I was always getting my tush handed to me by people who apparently were really bored at school.
They played, actually, now that I think of it, they did play, I think it was like a lower class thing, but there was some card game. I don't know what it was because I was walking I would walk in the mornings before we got up. And then sometimes at night you would see a whole bunch of people, like 10 people gathered around, and they're like throwing cards down and like yelling.
You don't know what it was?
Don't know. I don't know. And then we would pass the park, and there was another game that people would play in the park. Some people looked like maybe they were playing chess, but they were playing that card game. And then another game with rocks where they moved rocks all over a table.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds bizarre.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. But that's the only gaming we saw.
That's it.
Yeah.
I would imagine you'd find like, a GW store in every corner or something,
We usually do, but not,
Yeah, because there are
We didn't look it up ahead of time either. I don't think he did. I don't know.
You don't know that. He may have.
He may have.
Darn it,
he does. He does.
I can see Craig doing that. You just don't know it.
Yeah.
So while you were in China, I played this new game. This is the game I wanted to talk about today. Russ, I think it's a new game in general, not just new to me. It is called Small World. So everybody cue the music that is now going to be running through your head for the next hour, for the remainder of the podcast. Or once Russ and I get on here, another 2 hours? It's called Small World. It's by Days of Wonder. And this is a really fun game. We played it, and it was cool because I beat the guys, but it's just a really fun game. It has a whole bunch of little tiny cardboard pieces, and you're different races. There's like elves, there's skeletons, there's little mermaid men, there's tritons.
Mermaid men?
Actually, tritons. I happen to actually pick up exactly the card. Tritons. See, no, I guess it's a seahorse
like
game.
Ariel's dad.
What do you think? Seahorse? Looks like a seahorse. They're water guys. they get extra points when they come on the board from the water. But you have, there's skeletons, there's dwarves, there's ratmen. So you have a race, and then you have a different set of random cards that you shuffle these that kind of match up, and there are different sort of like skills that they get. There's heroic, there's wealthy where you get extra gold, there's a forest where it's easier to deploy in a forest, hills where you get extra points for being on a hill. But it mixes up every time. Like it's not always, the skeletons aren't always heroic. The skeletons could be heroic this game, and they could be seafaring the next game. So it's never really the same game twice, which is kind of cool. And you're trying to collect different areas on the board, and the board even has, you talk about like 2-player games, 4-player games. It's a separate board for a 2-player game.
Oh, really?
So it has fewer territories. You flip it over, it's for 3, and then there's a bigger one that you unfold for like 4 or 6 players, which has like a ton of little territories that you're trying to take over. And it was fun. And you know what? It was fast. Like the first time we played it, neither one of us had played it. I want to say maybe it took us 40 minutes. The next time when it was just Russ and I think we got through the thing in not even half an hour.
Really?
So it's like, it's a fun game, and there's a little bit of strategy, or there's a good bit of strategy as you start to play it, but it's just not one of those things that's complicated to get a hold of. You can get a hold of it really easy. And it was just as fun as a 2-player game as it was with 3.
Oh, really? Not like Pillars?
Yeah, sometimes 2 of the 2-player games you lose it, but I think because they make the board
they adjust
smaller.
It.
They adjust it.
Yeah.
And there's also little turn markers. I want to say it's 10 turns in a 2-person game. When you get to a certain point, there's not as many turns. So they reduce the number of turns, so you really have to work harder to make sure you do the right thing and that you collect your little gold. And you get to, it's fun, you get to pick out, you line up your different races. I think you start with 6 with their little skills. And you can pick the first one for free if you're but if you want to pick the next one down, you have to pay 1 gold to get it. Or if you wanted to pay 2 down, you'd have to pay 2 gold to get it. And they're randomly laid out. And I was not willing to pay gold, so my theory was just go with the first one. They were so mocking me mercilessly. Well, that's really planning. Oh, you got to look at what's down there. Oh, you got to see. This one's so much better. I'm like, yeah, I won. My strategy.
So are you only one race per game?
You could be more than one. You start off with one race, and then you have little tokens, little square tokens that have a picture of your skeletons, and you can deploy those in your different little lands to take over this hill or this little city. Once you get them all out there, there's a point where you don't have any more to put out because you put out so many each turn. Then you can put your race in. They say it in decline. You flip it over. You still collect the gold for those places, but they don't really do anything anymore. Then you can pick a new race, and that's your new race. And now you can deploy that around the board. But you never have more than 2 at a time. But you could potentially have a race, have it go in decline, have a race, have it to go in decline, have a race, have it go in decline. We never got more than, we only ever had 2. When Russ and I played, we only got through 2. And when John was playing with us, we also only got through 2. But it was a good game, and we all liked it. And it was, there's this, because the way it mixes it up, I really like this, because I hate when games have, like, you play it, you all know that this is what the dwarves do, and once you get the dwarves you play this way, and the dwarves will always win.
You know what that's like? This is maybe because of my jet lag, but when we watch Survivor, there's, do you watch Survivor?
I have. I've not watched it in a few seasons.
Yeah, there gets a certain point where a certain alliance takes over, and the fun is gone, because you're like, okay, so they're going to vote this person, and then this person, and then this person, and the next 6 weeks is just waiting for
until
those
you get to
people
the final 4, and then you got to see who picks it. Well, and it's kind of like that. A lot of games are like that, where once you've played it a handful of times and you know the strengths of the different races or the different whatever it is that you're playing, if you get that one, you can cream everybody on the board. But there's no way anyone can beat you. Or if you just continue to do this particular process, you win, and then there's no strategy. It's no fun, especially if you're the guys that are the weaker race.
You're almost just like hoping for that card when the cards are dealt.
This is the strongest one. But with this one, I mean, there's like, I don't know, there must be 10, 12, probably more than that races here, and then there's even more of the little skill cards that go with it.
So they're definitely switching up.
So when you mix them up, I mean, we played it, and I don't think we got anything to match up. In fact, I didn't even have the same races every time we played it. I never got the same race twice, because we just how it went through, we had different races.
Now, are these the little things that deploy?
She's pointing to little things. There's these little, because
there are a lot of little doodads.
There's these little 1-inch square cardboard things, but each one of these represents the race. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's
okay, so you get those.
This stack. If you're a skeleton, you get this stack. But it's nice as far as
it doesn't seem like too much stuff. The other stuff is coins.
No, there's the little cards. There's coins that you have.
There's nothing like to read, which is nice.
There's nothing. The rules actually, and the rules are awesome.
Well, I mean, like no card
page
with stuff on it. You know what I mean? Like nothing to read as you go.
And then you have markers for your turns, and then you get these little. Some races get these things. This is like an encampment that makes it harder for people to get you over. This is little mountains. Mountains are harder.
I bet you that's why you said like it's easier to grasp. Like I'm even thinking like Battlestar, you always have the cards where you're reading, or even in Pandemic, you got to read all the
there's
time.
no
the
cards.
rules.
You have you play whatever, your 4 or 5 turns with each race before that race goes into decline, and you might want to start a new race. But for that whole time, that race has, skeletons. +1 if you're in this area. He's heroic, so he gets these 2 hero things, and you can't conquer those lands. Boom. That's it. It doesn't change for the course of that race.
That's good for women. Is the concreteness.
And you're concreteness? I think that's the word. I'll go with that.
Concrete-ness.
And what we also like too, this is a silly thing for all you, what do they call them, groundskeepers?
Yeah.
That like to keep everything neat. This box
I did notice the box is very nice.
Yeah, she is a groundskeeper.
I do like the box.
It has little slots for everything, and the teeniest little ones, which are the little 1-inch square tiles for each race that you deploy on the different lands. They're in this little tiny tray that has a lid, even, so that they all sit there nice and pretty, and they don't fall over.
And
your
it does, I would think, I'll try this anyway because Craig told me,
it really is a fun game.
But if you had pulled off the top of the box, to me, this looks okay. To me, I'm like, okay, the way that it, and stuff like that matters, at least I wouldn't know that it matters, but I can see consciously now that it does. When he takes, when he takes the top of the box off, I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't too bad, as opposed to pulling it off and having all the cards in the, it's so very
pieces.
Intimidating. Yeah.
This is not an intimidating game.
And it looks like a fun, not too crazy involved
it's
intellectual
a fun game. And like I said, there is a certain amount of strategy as you start to learn what the different things do, and you pair up your races, and whether you want to come in from the side of the board. In some races, you can come in from the water. The Triton men, the mermaid guys, that really look more like seahorses. They come in from the water, and there's zombies that never really die. Like all the other races die, the zombies just kind of, you can never get rid of them.
Yeah, I love zombies.
So there's some different strategy with the different races, but it changes up all the time. It's not always the same because you have those sort of like skill cards that attach to it, and they stay with it. And there's more of those than there are races.
What kind of I just know because I remember getting another email about the kids' games. Age-wise, you think?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking my kids would not play this, that it would be beyond Rose, and she is going to be 7 this summer. It's not because it has reading. It actually doesn't. I mean, you can easily tell them the 2 or 3 things they'd need to know. But I think because of the strategy, maybe if like a 7 or 8-year-olds were playing another 7 or 8-year-old, but playing an adult is going to cream them. Does that make sense? But they probably, Rose might be able to handle. She was playing with Russ and I, but like our littler one, she's 5, and I think she'd be like, yeah, whatever. I'm done. I want to go watch TV. I want to go have a
probably
cookie.
like 12 and up.
Yeah,
to have
10,
fun
maybe
with
like
adults.
10 and up.
10,
I'd say maybe like 10, yeah. But I can see, it's definitely, it's not a reading game, so it's not the reading thing. It's more like having to know that it's better to put your guy here than here. I can see a 10-year-old playing a 7-year-old and trouncing him because the 7-year-old's just not going to have the thought process to think about all the intricacies of where to put his guys. He's just going to put him on the board,
Yep.
But it was a very fun game.
It looks good. I am going to give it a chance. Craig played it last night.
We did. Yeah, Russ. I pulled this out of the trunk of Russ's car before, so I'm like, Russ, is this in the car? So I figured he was playing.
He played it last night. He said he's not sure what I'm going to think of it.
He's not.
He said he's not sure.
Oh, see, I love this. I can't imagine you not liking it.
Different. I don't know.
Yeah,
we will see. But no, I will give it a try.
And my love is only slightly tainted by the fact that I beat the Wakeland brothers. Only slightly. I really did like it. I think even without that, I would have liked it.
I noticed, like I said on the email, people writing again about kids' games. I just wanted to mention this. If you look on our website, on the Wives website, thewives.webs.com, under the archives, there's a couple episodes where we discuss all kids' games and
I
lots
put up
of
my
kids' games
favorites on my little side. I put up a couple of favorites, the
just
Black
so that
Pirate,
we're not.
And
it's not that we're not. Talking about that. We've just talked about it a lot.
Yeah.
So you can find it on other episodes.
And you can always email us if you can't find it. Email us and we'll tell you, we'll give you, because it's fun to get emails from people.
Oh, yeah, we love emails.
And isn't this horrible? I just forgot his name, who's picking on me. Nils? I want to say it's Nils.
Yeah.
I believe it's Nils. And Nils, if it's not you, then it's somebody else whose name is close to you.
Like Nash.
Like Nash. I have issues with the Nils Nash. It's one of you guys picking on me with a little card holder to hold my BS about a Galactica card. He's like, how'd you like the card holder? I was like, yeah, whatever, you wise. So, and I wanted to make a comment too. This is something that your husband, Craig, mentioned at Gen Con, that he had bumped into some of the guys from Fantasy Flight Games who are co-workers of our friend Sally, who we interviewed a while back now, a couple months back. And apparently the guys are feeling like they didn't get their turn. They didn't have a chance to defend themselves because they weren't here. So
She did have quite a few things to say.
which was awesome. I love Sally. She was hilarious. But if they really want to defend themselves or they think they can be a fun and interesting interview, email us, send us an email, and we would be happy to give you a chance. Now remember, this is our segment, so it's going to be a little chance for you and a big chance for us, but we'd be happy to have you on if you guys would like to. So send us an email, Fantasy Flight Guys, if you think you can defend yourself against your geekiness.
And if they look up on the website and they really want to say something, they could probably call the voicemail too and leave a little message.
Yes, they could.
The number's on the boys' website, the D6generation.com.
And I have to mention, because Craig mentioned it in the last episode, this is the new Jim Butcher book.
Yes.
From the Dresden Files, Turncoat, which I just finished reading yesterday. It's awesome.
He's reading that now.
I think he's done. Isn't he done?
Oh, you know what?
He just finished it before he went to China, and I finished it while you were in China.
Yeah, I remember, because we had a couple of in-flights in China, and he ended up sitting next to a boy from school who's way into all the books, so they talked about it the 2-hour flight. And he said he bought, I think it was that one and a couple other ones for the China trip, and ended up reading them before we left.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and he was left with nothing. And then today he came home complaining, I have no books.
Well, it was, I read through this one.
I believe he loved
so
it.
Good.
Yeah.
I heard Craig talking about it. He didn't say anything about it because you don't want to spoil it for anybody. Because this one is just loaded with long-term plot resolution and new things opening up. These are awesome books. If you're a geek, you're going to like these books because the main character's a wizard. They're just so good, and the character so draws you in. And I think in real life, I don't know, I'm judging by the things that he writes, I think Jim Butcher might be a geek. Because he has a scene in the end.
I would think.
Well, no, but I mean, like
he's writing those books.
No, I mean, like a real game. Because he has at the end, he has a reference, and this doesn't spoil anything for anybody, but he has a reference to a game night that he does, where he's talking about his game. It's this really dorky game night T-shirt, and I'm like, that sounds like a guy who really is a geek to know that game reference. Yeah, so I like him even more now.
I know Craig loves them because he's the only author that I know. Craig has a bazillion books at our house, but the only author I really know of, if he says, "Oh, it's a Jim Butcher book," I know. Or if I was looking for a book, that's
awesome.
Terry
Love this
Pratchett.
book. And the only crummy part about him writing another book is that I read it in 3 days, and now I'm done, and I need Jim Butcher to write faster because I want the next one. I need to know what's going to happen to everybody because I love his series. So those of you who have read it on Craig and our recommendation before, the new one is as good, if not better, than the rest of the series.
Maybe you guys can do a review like you did.
This is our review. It's awesome. We talked about that. The review would pretty much just be, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's so good. It's awesome.
On my radio show that I listen to in the mornings, they're sci-fi geeks and they like Star Trek. They said they got a screening of the Star Trek movie. They said it was the best sci-fi movie ever.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Russ.
They flipping loved it.
It's coming out, I think it's the night the podcast is going to be put up. It's coming out Thursday, I think. Mm-hmm. And Russ is so desperately trying to get me to wait in line at the movie theater for hours to get tickets.
Oh, really?
So he can show up and just join me. I'm like, oh, that'll be fun for me. In fact, he came home today. This is just kind of funny. All you geeks will appreciate this. He came home today with a Burger King bag, and he's holding it. I'm like, honey, I made dinner. You didn't need to get a burger. He's like, no, and he opens it up, and it's one of the glasses. They have glasses, collectible glasses.
Yeah.
His eyes were glinting like it was Christmas Eve. He's like, open it up. We got the Kirk glass. He's like,
very nice.
So he was totally stoked about it. He's like, now we have to go to Burger King for all of our sodas just to get the Kirk and the Spock and the whatever else glasses for Star Trek.
They were raving, even saying it was way better than Iron, and they love Iron Man. They were like, they said it's just
really.
They said that it was the best sci-fi movie ever.
That is a pretty wow. See, I don't know that I could pick a best sci-fi movie ever because I'm a long-term old. I watch sci-fi stuff from the 50s and I love it. Except for the one big ant movie. Anybody ever seen this? You haven't, Karen. There's this movie with giant ants. It takes place in the 50s. They're obviously like puppets. But there's a scene with the ant guy. He's a giant ant, and they're stuck in those tunnels in L.A., the drain tunnels or whatever. Yeah. And he impales this guy on his little anti-fangs. I can see it in my head, give me nightmares forever. And I've decided, if you live in L.A., what are the purpose of those tunnels other than to film horror movies?
Yeah.
I mean, you always see them there. But so I even watch that old stuff. So I don't know that I could give a brand new Star Trek.
They do love Star Trek, and they said they went in very nervous.
I'm very nervous. I love Star Trek. Beam me up, but I'm really nervous. They're going to mess with my.
They said it was
my
great.
faves.
They said they've started a new They said that it was
a reboot.
It was a reboot, but staying true to what Star Trek is, but giving it a new, fresh thing. but not new, like a new generation type thing. Like
Just
still
new
being the
new
same.
take on the old guys.
Yeah, and they said that the effects were just amazing, and the story was amazing, the acting was amazing, and that they kept true to the, what do you call it Craig always says, when you keep the rules of the world.
The universe? I don't know.
When you stay real to the science, like, everything's plausible and they stick to their own rules within the universe
they
created
didn't
or whatever
suddenly
it's called.
change the make gravity not work kind of thing?
Right.
That's
so,
cool.
I'm just saying that's what they said. Maybe people out
I
there
think
heard
the one thing
same.
that's going to be weird for me is the guy, I don't know, why can I never remember his name? He plays Spock.
They said he was awesome.
He's Siler on Heroes. So I see the previews in which he looks so good and Spockish.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, Siler, I just can't. Yeah. I have to separate my brain from the Heroes thing. I can't watch Heroes probably now. I shouldn't watch any of the episodes we have saved.
Yeah.
So I'm not thinking of him as Siler instead of Spock.
You'll have to let me know because I probably won't be seeing that
You
one.
won't see it? Oh my God. We went to see Wolverine this weekend too.
Oh, really? That was all over China. There was posters all over China
Very
for Wolverine.
cool.
Yeah.
I liked it. Yeah. Although I'm not a comic book geek, and I guess if you're a comic book geek, there are a couple deviations from the universe, which is not being a comic book person. I didn't know. I was just like, cool.
Yeah.
Wolverine fighting people, beating up bad guys. All right.
I do. I wouldn't mind seeing. Like, I wouldn't go to see it, but I wouldn't mind being dragged to see Wolverine.
Mind being dragged to see. Wow, Craig, work
Star
on that.
Trek,
Mind being.
I don't even. I think Craig will go see Star Trek out of pure because everyone's seeing it. But he's not a big Star Trek person
I'm
at all.
a sci-fi nerd. That's my BSG thing. I love sci-fi. So I may very well wait in line for Russ to show up from his office as I stand out there with the geeks for 2 hours in the drizzly New Hampshire weather because that's all we've had. So I think that's all we've got this week.
Okay.
Yes, so thanks for listening, and send us your emails, and go check out the Facebook page and tell us what you do, because it totally amuses me when I'm bored. So.
Yeah, and we'll talk to you next time.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Warning!
This podcast is part of the Wargamers Radio Network. WRN. You have been warned. For more information, go to www.wargamerradio.com.
Danger! Danger, Will Robinson!
Silence, you ninny!
Welcome once again, D6G fans, to another episode of The Score. On this episode, The Score will attempt to hold its 5 minutes of carefully fought-for space against the highly disciplined 4 hours that is the rest of the D6 generation, and answer a challenge submitted by Thomas from Sweden. Thomas is planning a game set in the 1954 Battle of Dien Bien Phu during the First French Indochina War in Laos and Vietnam. The battle locked the Viet Minh in a struggle for their freedom against the forces of the French Union, who were, as Thomas puts it, fighting desperately to hold on to their colonial power. For me, yes Owen, first person, selecting music for war games set after World War II becomes increasingly difficult because the politics and realities of the wars themselves have a profound impact on people's perceptions. The Battle of Dien Bien Phu, for example, ultimately led to the United States intervention in Vietnam, which remains one of my country's most controversial military decisions. Given the controversies and well-documented horrors of 20th century warfare and the bleak situation of the French in the Battle of Dien Bien Phu, this episode's selections tend toward the somber but still beautiful pieces, such as Samuel Barber's 1938 Adagio for strings, made famous in Oliver Stone's Vietnam War classic, Platoon. Notably, Stone replaced French composer Georges Delereux's original score with the Adagio. Delereux, however, went on to score a film called Dien Bien Phu, which has some perfect violin and orchestra tracks. Thomas, if you can find this album, buy it. There are some short samples online, but none in a format I could use for this episode. Moving forward to another Oliver Stone film score, we come to Craig Armstrong's World Trade Center cello theme, from Stone's film about the September 11th attacks. This track has a similar tragic theme, but seems to press forward, much as the French were forced to do in 1954, despite overwhelming odds. This little-known score also contains some of my favorite choral pieces, and is excellent music to enjoy while painting. From the World Trade Center, we move to music by master minimalist composer Philip Glass, entitled Pruitt Igo, from the film Koyaanisqatsi. Ironically, in the film, Glass's music accompanies footage of the destruction of an urban housing development designed by architect Minoru Yamasaki, designer of the World Trade Center towers. The track has recently appeared in a number of places, including Grand Theft Auto 4, and people say that video games aren't artistic in nature, and The Watchmen. Finally, no one gaming in Vietnam should be without Nick Glennie Smith's score to the Mel Gibson film We Were Soldiers. It is a fabulous and moving work, and another one I really enjoyed painting to. Though some of the tracks include American-oriented themes and choral selections, other tracks, like What is War, Look Around You, Final Departure, and NVA Base Camp, do not. Well, Thomas, thank you for writing, and good luck in your upcoming game. If it looks half as good as it will sound, I think you'll be in business. To the rest of you, please drop me a line at thescore.d6g@gmail.com if you have any topics or music you would like to hear about on an upcoming episode of The Score. The Score will return to the D6G in 2 weeks, with the first of its faction-themed episodes in honor of the release of Codex Imperial Guard. In the meantime, send me your favorite IG tracks. This is Ken Whitehurst reminding you that you can forget your reinforcements, but you can never forget The Score.
PulpGamer.com. Never touch another man's dice.
It's a world of slaughter, a world of tears. It's a world of jokes and a world of fears. There's too much that we share, so it's time to beware. It's a small world after all. 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 It's a small, small world. There are 14 races and one dragon, but there's not enough room for everyone. As the empires expand and the troops take your land, it's a small world after all. It's a world of wizards, a world of orcs. It's a world of giants and tiny dwarves. Ghouls, elves, skeletons, sorcerers, and tritons. It's a small world after all. It's a small world after all. It's a small world.
It's a small world. It's a world of killing, a world of blood. It's a world of doughboys and...
Yeah, you're no Dan.
No.
No, so
Dan,
we want to thank
Dan is far more creative.
So
than
the song you just heard there, the little Small World riff, was by Dan and I believe Sarah, his wife, probably.
I would have to imagine.
From Myriad Games, and they also have their own podcast, part of the Pulp Gamer Radio Network. Go check that out.
Yep.
And they were nice enough to do this little parody and let us put it in the show about Days of Wonder's latest game, Small World.
You know what I'm hoping about Days of Wonder is checking them out in Gen Con this year. Remember how we kind of missed...
Well, we need to have something set up with them so that we don't miss them.
We need to talk to them next time. We do because Days of Wonder makes some phenomenal games.
They really do.
They've made, of course, they made Small World. And what's exciting about Small World for a lot of Days of Wonder fans is Days of Wonder actually hasn't put out a new box game in some time.
Yep.
They've been very focused on their Memoir 44 expansion line.
Yep.
Love those games.
They designed and produced, Battle Lore, and they were supporting the heck out of that, but that was getting too heavy for them, so that was sold to Fantasy Flight, but they still do Ticket to Ride, which is probably one of the number one, family board games right now.
Great game.
I've decided I hate that game.
Really?
Really?
Oh, I really do.
Why?
It's boring.
Nice.
It's not a rail building game by any stretch of the imagination.
Nice. Well-
And the bitter irony of that's
No
the one
hate.
game Marisa plays, and Lou and I hate it.
See, so your wife
Ooh.
likes it, but well, it's got a mass appeal because it's very straightforward, easy to learn. And
But
it's-
what's
it's
fun? What do you guys find fun about it?
I like the rail building
I think
about
it's
it.
very simple.
I think it's cool. It's a straightforward. It's a great family game.
All right.
Now, also, they make Mystery of the Abbey and a bunch of other great games. And what's really great about Days of Wonder is the components and the boxes, and they come in are just really, really nice, as well as the whole look of the game. Now, Small World
That's
just
right.
came
We're
out.
going to get a good Russ segment on the components.
Oh yeah. Now, Small World just came out like 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
So brandy new. And Craig, why don't you go for this name? It's designed by
Philippe Kayarts.
Yes.
Or
Now
something like that.
he originally designed a game called he's designed several games, but one of the more famous games is Vinci, published back in 1999.
Wow.
And Small World is the successor to Vinci. So Vinci,
Welcome back, Philippe.
yeah. So Vinci was more of a less fantasy themed, which we'll get into that in a minute, more of a historically themed, but same basic mechanics. So if you're familiar with Vinci, a lot of Small World will sound familiar to you. And Small World supports 2 to 5 players. And what's really interesting about it is it's a relatively quick playing
It
game.
is very quick.
I've played I don't know, 10 or 11 games now of the thing. With 2 players, it plays in 30 minutes. Even with 5 players, it plays in like 90. Probably less than that if you know what you're doing. So unless your players are really into analysis paralysis, just think the game plays very quickly.
Right.
So let's give it our little high-level overview about what you're doing. Rafe, you're good at these. Go, Rafe. Give us a high-level overview of Small World.
All right, high-level overview. I'm not even looking at the bullets because it's more fun that way.
Okay.
You pull out the map, depending on the size of your players, which I haven't played as much games, so Russ, I assume,
Well, let's
they
just
take
give
into account-
the theme high-level overview.
Yeah. Oh, the theme high-level overview.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
It's fantasy-based. You have these different races. You've got skeletons. You've got wizards. You've got sorcerers.
Archetypes,
you've
if you
got giants. You've got ogres.
Right.
And I'm not going to get into the mechanic yet, but there's this little random element there. You get this little dual thing that goes on. We'll get to that
They
later.
also have
which is pretty
abilities.
cool.
So you might have ghouls.
That's what I was talking about, the ability.
But you
yeah.
might have flying ghouls one game, and next game you might have forest ghouls or bivouacking elves. So there's 2 things going on here. There's a variety of races, and there's a variety of abilities your races might have.
Berserk giants.
Right.
Yes, and that is, I like that part.
And what are you trying to do?
These chits, you come onto the board. It's risk-esque. It's risk-like. You put the chits down. And your goal is to maximize your territories, which convert to gold, and the most gold at the end of the game wins.
Right. So basically,
But
you're trying
there's
to
a lot of little twists.
Right. You're trying to take over as much land control as you can. That's about the only thing that's like risk in it. But yes, you're trying to take land control. So it's got a map like that, a very small map, not very many territories on the map, because it is what, Craig? A small world.
It is a small world.
And you're trying to earn money. The more territory you control, the more money you make, as Rafe said. But eventually what's going to happen is your current armies you're using. So imagine like Risk, you're just taking over this army, right? But
Yep, here's
eventually,
twist number 1.
first twist is your army's going to run out of juice. At some point, you're just going to run out. We'll get into how that happens later. And you're going to have to pick a new race with a new ability to reinvade the world with as a secondary race. And so that's going to be a big mechanic of the game is when do you switch over from your current race and kick into that new race and abandon your old people.
Yep.
And what's really interesting about it for me is that what drew me to the game initially when I read about it was that the combat system uses virtually no dice and no cards.
Yep.
There is literally no luck in the game.
Which we call get the
Almost
board
no
ready.
luck.
Russ.
Almost no luck.
Get the board ready.
Yep.
An innovative mechanic.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't ready on that, but yes, it is. It is that's an innovative mechanic, right? Because most of the games nowadays do some kind of random thing. And again, as Rafe mentioned, the objective is to be the guy that has the most victory points or money at the end of the game. But there's a turn counter, so there's a fixed turn length. At the end
Now,
of the
what's
last
key
turn,
about that, and I know you'll get into it, but we're still in the overview, is it's not land grab. The land grab gets you the victory points or the money, but there's other ways to get the money.
right?
So that's pretty
there are
cool.
ways you can supplement your money. And what's the theme? It's basically just sort of a lighthearted fantasy theme, very colorful.
Yes,
very
yes,
sort of
lighthearted,
like
yeah.
comical theme. It kind of ties into our other theme with Munchkin. There, it's not a satire like Munchkin, but it sort of is. It's a little comedy. Very bright, very vivid. Love the artwork.
Yeah.
But it's fun and fanciful. It's like the elves are sort of like hopping on one toe and sniffing a flower.
The
that
artwork
kind of thing.
reminds me a lot of Battlelore.
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit like that, but even more fanciful than Battlelore. Like in Battlelore, the rogue looks really kick-ass. There's nobody looking kick-ass in this game. They're more like, well, there's a scene with like the giant's taking a step and he's a guy stuck on the bottom of his foot. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the little comics in the bottom of was like 4th edition Fantasy, Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And the little guys, the little comics in the corner. Or the old D&D books, the comics, sort of the jokes in there. It's that kind of lighthearted thing.
Yep.
So let's get into what comes in the box, the components.
Ooh, I want to start.
Okay, go ahead.
It's a good sized box game.
Square
I think
box.
from the heft of it and everything, you feel like you're getting a good bang for your buck. Lots of beautiful full color maps based on the different. Russ, I'm going to save the little cool thing that you figured out for the end, so don't worry, I'm not going to steal your thunder on that. Okay. When you pop the chits out, I'm going to save that for you. You've got the when you pick your races, nice heavy cardboard there, and with your abilities, good cardboard, and there's a cool stacking thing that you do and good rotating thing there. Great tokens, really cool colors. The hobbits look really fun. The skeletons look really fun, and comes with this is a Days of Wonder specialty, isn't it, Russ? Comes with its own token rack.
Right. So what was a trademark of Days of Wonder, in my experience, all the games of theirs I've owned, is that all the components fit back into the box in a special way. They always come in a nice tray. And this box is unique in that it has this plastic insert that holds a lot of the tokens, but then there's another little docking plastic thing that pops out with its own cover that holds all the different races' tokens.
Separated
out. And it's important because there's 14 different races in the game, and each race has over 10 or more tokens in it. So think about
most
that.
of them are going to be seen over the course of each game.
So you need a way to organize these things. So it's great that you're not dealing with like 30 plastic baggies. You got them all in this
you didn't have to buy any Plano boxes for this one.
Right. It's all nice and organized, which is great. You mentioned the multiple gaming boards. It comes with 2 double-sided, nice cardstock boards with beautiful artwork on them. And then, with the reason and this takes to the game's scalability, and then depending on the number of players dictates to which board you use. So in a 2-player game, you use a very small board. In the 4 or 5-player game, you use a larger board, and that controls how it works. And also, the board indicates the number of turns that are going to be played. So again, the number of players is going to dictate the number of turns the game has, also, which keeps the game speed reasonable.
Hey, Craig. You know what I just dawned on me? And this is going to sounds like I'm setting you up for a joke, and I'm not. We get a lot of emails where people are like, "I hate you guys. You made us buy more games." I mean, these 2 games, Munchkin and this one, I can kind of see what people are saying. Like, as Russ is going through the components, I'm getting excited about how fun it was to just the beauty of it. Oh,
it was a fun.
No wonder people want to run out and buy these games.
Good game.
They're cool.
This is a great game.
So let's talk just to give a little detail on how much you're getting in this box, because I believe the retail price in this game is $50. So a little cheaper than some of the high-end games, but still not cheap. But you're getting the 14 races with all their little tokens. You're getting the 20 abilities for the races, which are the little cards that dock with the race cards that tell you that it's a flying elf versus a berserking elf. You got great tokens for these different abilities. You got these troll layers and hero tokens and dragons. We'll get into those in a little bit. You got a turn counter token. You got the mountain tokens. You got all these coins to keep track of your treasure, how much money, victory points you've earned. Also comes with what is also nice, 6 full-color summary sheets, which is really one more than you need. These are double-sided full-color sheets, good size too.
Yep.
That give each player a turn summary on one side. On the other side, it gives in detail all the different special abilities that you're going to find in the game and all the different racial powers in the game.
Right.
So you can quickly look at that and learn what's available to be played and used. And it's a full-color rule book. Short, it's about 8 pages. There's no table of contents or index, which I'd normally ding, except what they did with the summary sheets is each section, each turn sequence in the summary sheet has a page number in the book it's on. So it's like there's a built-in table of contents, which is very nice.
I guess we'll let that pass.
Yeah, I like that. Now here's my little warning tip to players if you go buy this game. Before you throw anything out, so before you when you punch out all the cardboard and you get ready to throw away the little wiry cardboard bit that held the tokens, don't throw them away. Save them. Read the back of the book. There's a special way you can repack the box that makes it awesome, so things won't fall around and shift in the box when you carry it.
Mm-hmm.
So check that out. And I think from a point of view of theme and look, the colors, the components, even though there's no plastic, it's all cardboard. Normally I like a little plastic in my game. I'm kind of a Fantasy Flight guy that way. But in this game, you got lots of nice cardboard. I think it just carries the theme nicely, and the pieces all look nice. Craig, what do you think about the theme and the look of the game?
I love the theme. It includes all these archetypal races, but in all these new, unique, interesting, mixed combinations. I'm a huge fan of plastic too, but plastic wouldn't work with this game because one of the main mechanics is stacking these tokens on each other, and I just don't think you'd be able to.
Wouldn't be as elegant.
Yeah, it wouldn't be as. I mean, you could probably come up with some weird cone type things, but I mean, they're these neat tokens. The artwork's beautiful. It's really fun and funky, and it all just fits in perfectly. It is what it is, and it does what it does very well.
All right, so let's get into setting this baby up. So basically, after you poked everything out and got all your stuff in its little racks and where it goes, and you got your game all stored and set up,
and after you poked everything out and didn't throw away the cardboard,
right? So now you're getting ready to set up. So all you really do is you pop open the box. You're going to pop up that little docking race token tray I mentioned. Take that out of the box. Pick the appropriate board based on the number of players you have today. You're going to shuffle up the races and make a stack of those. You're going to shuffle up the powers, the abilities that go with the races, and make a stack of those and sort of lock them in.
Cardboard things.
So yeah, there's these two cardboard piles. One is sort of a rectangle-shaped thing with a race on it. The other one is a smaller, almost square thing that's the power, and they lock together. So the power might say flying, the race might say ghouls. You lock them together, now you got flying ghouls.
Right.
So that's what happens. So you lock these together. So every game is going to be a different combination of powers and races. And even in the same game, if you play long enough with enough players, you might see the same race come back with a different power.
Yep.
So you stack that stack up, shuffle those, set them up.
Yep.
You take the top of that pile then of powers and races, you take the top 5 out and put them in a line. So you're going to have a first, second, third, fourth, and fifth race, plus the top guy on the deck, ready to pick. Each player starts with 5 coins, 5 onesies, 5 coins with one on one side. You put the mountains out on the board wherever there's a mountain square. There's little mountain cardboard counters for those. We'll get into those, how that works later. You put an ancient civilization token on every square on the board that's indicated with a little marker, and you're ready to go.
And voila.
So it's really quick setup. You open the box, you're ready to go inside 5 minutes if you know what you're doing. Now, here's how the turn one works. So you're going to figure out who player 1 is, and how do you figure out who player 1 is in this one, Rafe?
Oh, I love it. You start with the person with the most pointy ears.
Right, that's official game rule. So in our group, that's Craig.
Yep.
So
in our group, that's Craig.
I have one elf ear and one goblin ear. So.
Right, so if he turns one way,
I get it all covered.
Right. So Craig's always our pointy ear guy. He always goes first. And so the first thing the first player does is he or she's going to choose their race. How does that work, Craig? How does the race choosing process work?
Well, you're going to have, is it 6?
There's going to be 6. There's 5 out there plus 1 on the top.
Yeah, there's 6 revealed races and abilities. They're all locked together. You're not going to be mixing and matching on your own. Right. They are what they are based on the shuffling at the very beginning of the game.
That's a good point.
If you want the one at the very top, you just take it and it's yours.
Right.
If you want anything lower than that, below that, you're going to have to pay to get there. So, for instance, if you want the second one, you're going to have to put 1 gold coin on the first one and then take the second one.
Right.
And then all of the remaining ones move up.
Right.
And then a new one is revealed. So every time a race is chosen, a new race with an ability is revealed. If you want to go 5 down, you're going to have to put a coin on each one of the ones.
Every race above the one you want, you put a coin on.
Exactly.
And those coins stay there, and if people want to and they'll build up as people ignore those races. So if there's a quote-unquote bad combo near the top, eventually there'll be so much money sitting on that you'll want to take it because you get that money.
Right.
So it's a little mechanic that sort of makes
remember, those are your
quote-unquote bad choices.
Those are your victory points, and the only time you lose any of them is when you spend them to get deeper into the stack of races if you wish to do so.
So you're going to choose your race. Rafe, you want to say something there?
Yeah, it's kind of it's almost a power grid-esque type of thing. You're not really bidding or anything, but there's a bit of a choice of which race. You're not just dealt it out and you're stuck with it.
No, and there's a little bit of a bidding thing because you're going to pick one.
Yeah.
And you're trying to think to yourself, which one's the best one, and there's different. You're looking at your card trying to think, okay, well, flying giants, what does that do for me versus the merchant humans and the alchemist elves, and how does that all work? And so you figure that out. Now the other big mechanic you got to pick, because the next thing after you choose your race, you're going to get tokens for that race, and these are the things stored in that handy dandy tray. And how this works is on the 2 cards you just took. So you took your race and its power. Now remember, these are 2 little cards that lock together. On one side of the card on the race, it has a number in a big sort of copper circle. And on the other side of the card with the power, there's a number in the copper circle. And you add those numbers together, and that is the total tokens you get.
That's your invading army.
So the race and the power do 2 things. First of all, they give you 2 different unique abilities. And second of all, though, these numbers add together to give you the number of tokens, and more tokens is better. So what I tell new players is, look, the most important thing, or one of the most important things, is look at those two numbers, add them together. The guys with the high number tokens are safer choice than the guys with the low number tokens. It can take more finesse to work well with those. So you look at that. So let's say you've got, flying giants, and the giant card, and these numbers I'm making them up right now. The giant card might say 6. The flying card might say 5, so you get 11 giant tokens.
That's actually 100% correct.
All right, what a guess. So there you go.
Wow.
So now you've got your race, you've got your tokens, and now it's time to invade. So, Rafe, how do you invade?
You take your little tokens in your hand. You must move on from one edge of the board, and you place your tokens down. But there are some rules governing how that works.
Right. So we'll get into conquering in a minute. But basically what's going to happen is you're going to come in in the very first conquest, unless there's a special rule for you, is going to be from the edge of the board, either across the water or from a board edge. You're going to establish your first territories like a beachhead, and then you can attack other adjacent territories or territories you already own until you deplete your hand of tokens. We'll get into how that actually works in a second. After you've invaded, you then get to regroup, which basically means you're going to pick up all your tokens. You leave one in every territory you took over, pick up any excess tokens, and redistribute it however you want them for defense. Okay, we'll get into more of that in a minute. And then you get your money, which basically is 1 coin for every territory you own.
Yes.
Now, the nuance here to getting your money is some races will say, like, hill giants. That means that if you happen to own a territory that is a hill, you get +1 coin for that. So you get 1 for owning the territory, +1 for being a hill territory. So what's going to happen is some powers and some races, like humans, always like to be on field. They give you +1 gold for that. So some races and some powers together are going to encourage you to attack certain territories and own certain territories. So you're going to get more money. So basically, you pick your race, you get your tokens, you invade, you regroup your guys, and you get your money.
So you're doing the overview. Gotcha.
That's the overview of the turn. Boom. Done. That's a turn. And that's pretty much 90% of the mechanics of the game until we get to conquering and what happens when your race dies out. So let's talk about conquering now.
Yes.
How the conquering works, again, we mentioned there's no randomness here. There's a little bit of randomness coming up, but the basic mechanics are this. So Rafe mentioned you got your handful of your giants, your 11 giant tokens you're ready to invade.
Yep.
So you pick a territory that you want to invade. The cost of invading the territory is paid in the chits, and you're going to put your chits in that territory you're invading. And the cost is going to be 2 for any territory. So the territory is empty. It's just flat on the board. You take 2 giants, put them there. You've invaded that territory.
Right.
Okay?
Poof.
The additional cost is any cardboard that's already in the territory you're trying to invade is +1 to the 2 you need to take it. So remember we mentioned earlier in the game, you take these mountain things and you put them on the mountain territory. So now when you're looking at the mountains, you see there's the mountain game board piece, and on top of that is a cardboard mountain. That means that to invade the mountains costs you 2 +1 for the mountain cardboard. So it costs me 3 giants to get into the mountain. Put my 3 giants there. All right? So now I've taken over an empty, taken over the mountains. If there's another territory that's got one of these ancient civilizations in it we mentioned earlier, well, that's a piece of cardboard too. So that's 2 +1 for the piece of cardboard is 3 again. I invade there, and I would remove the ancient civilization. I just killed them. They're off the board. So basically, I just keep invading like that. So I'm just putting my tokens down each square, whatever the minimum requirement is for me to get in that square, and eventually I'm going to run out of my hand, right?
Right.
And when I'm out of my hand, I'm done invading. I've extended as much as I can. Now, there's one little twist.
Uh-oh.
The randomness, okay? And what that is there's this die. And Craig mentioned earlier, he thought it was the Munchkin die, but this is actually the Small World die.
Yeah.
What does the die look like, Craig?
It's a 6-sided die with 3 blank sides, and then a 1, a 2, and a 3.
Right. And so it's like little marks on there, 1 marquee, 2 marquees, and 3 marquees. Now, what happens is, if you've got an extra token, it always takes at least 1 token to invade a territory because you have to mark it's your territory. But let's say I happen to have, the way I worked out, I've got 1 giant left. And the minimum requirement to take another territory is 2. Well, I can choose to say it's my last attack, so I'm going to roll the die. When you roll a die, it's always your last attack. So you can't just roll a die every attack. It's just your last one. You roll the D6. If I get enough marks on the die to equal the additional tokens I need to take the territory, I can take it over with the 1 guy I have. Right? So let's say, or another example might be, let's say I have 2 left in my hand, but there's an ancient civilization there, so I need 3. I roll the die. If I get at least a 1, I can take it over. Right? So that's what the die, that's the bit of randomness. But the randomness, you can totally ignore it and never use it.
It's pretty minimal.
It's pretty minimal. It's just there for an extra little oomph to kind of throw you over the top. And then after you've conquered, you regroup. So what's happened now is you've expanded your giants over your territory. You've got them in little piles in each place you're taking over based on the need, which you needed to conquer them. So now you want to regroup for defense. So basically you go through and take all your giants back up in your hand except for 1 in each territory. And now you can replace them however you want, where you expect your opponent to attack. And remember, your opponent has the same rule. He needs to put, it's 2 to enter, plus 1 for each piece of cardboard. So if I put 3 giants on a territory, it's going to cost you 2 plus 3 for my 3 giants is 5 to take me over. Right?
Right.
So the more I put in places, the harder it is for you to take that territory. And your goal is to take as much land as you can in your turn, so you were probably less likely to deplete your handful of tokens on one attack, and you're going to try to spread out more. So I'm going to just dissuade you from coming my way.
What happens if they do that?
If they take me out, if Rafe comes in and says, I'm going to attack your 3 giants with my 5 elves, then I would remove all my giants from the place. One of them dies and goes back into the tray. The other remaining giants, I hold in my hand at the end of Rafe's turn. I can redistribute them as defense.
Right. So
you don't lose all your giants. You lose 1 every time you get attacked.
Yeah.
Unless you're an elf. The elves have a special rule, which they never actually lose a guy. They just always go back in their hand and can redistribute, which is kind of neat. So you can't wipe a guy's hand out.
Right.
So basically, so there it was. So that's how conquering works. That's the whole mechanic. The only randomness is if you choose to use that little die on the end. And remember, your first attack is from the edge of the table. After that, all of them have to be adjacent to the attack you just made. Unless you have the special ability Fly, for example, where you can attack anywhere on the table. So here's an example of these wacky abilities. So that's the basic turn. So in the first round of the game, each player picks their race. They do that conquering thing we just described. Then they regroup, and then they get their money. So after I've conquered my giants, since I took over 6 territories, I get 6 gold. Now here's another little nuance of the game. Everybody knows that I just got 6 gold.
Yep.
But when I put the gold down in front of me, I turn it over upside down. And the backs of all the gold coins are identical. Some of the gold coins have 10s on them, 5s on them, 3s on them, and 1s on them. So eventually what's going to happen is I'm going to have some denomination of coins in front of me, but you don't know how much I have. So you got to kind of keep a running total in your head. Like, is Rafe pulling an average of 10 coins a turn, 5 coins a turn? Is he doing well? Who's in the lead? It's kind of hidden who's actually in the lead, which is sort of interesting. You don't really know. And it's surprising at the end sometimes of the game because you think you're doing great or doing badly and the other guy's doing really well. And then it turns out, and that's a whole part of the bluffing game too, like the meta game, trying to get people to attack other people, not you. It's like, well, I'm not really doing that well, but you don't really know how well I'm doing unless you've really got a card counter mind and keeping track of all those numbers.
Right.
To give the listeners an insight into playing games with us, Russ was moaning how he was going to lose and he was going to be in 5th place the entire time we were playing.
I was.
Yep.
And at the very end, Rafe decided he was probably going to be in last place. And I believe a quote was by Russ when we did all the counting.
Because I ended up being 4th and Rafe was 5th.
And so Russ wasn't in last place. Russ's quote was, I would have been in last place, except I didn't take into account how much you suck.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
So that's the no hate we get when the recording equipment is off.
The show is no hate. I can't be responsible for how I am in game.
Yeah, nice.
I would have been in last place, except I forgot to take into account how much you suck.
How much Rafe sucks, yes.
Yeah. I don't know. You know how these things go. Okay, so basically, that's round 1. So round 1 you invaded. Now, so you've regrouped. Now the next player goes, he invades the same place. He may choose another part of the world to invade. He may invade all over your guys. Who knows? It's going to depend on what his racial ability is, because if he's looking for hills and you happen to be in the hills, he's probably going to come get you. It's going to depend on how juicy you look. If you didn't redistribute your guys very well and you got a lot of 1s out there easy to take over, he might do that. Or if there's some metagame going on and he really wants to get you back for something you did earlier, he might attack you too.
If you said he sucked earlier.
Right.
Now, the cool thing as far as this goes, to me, in the first round of the game, is you don't know what anybody else is race-wise.
Right.
Because they choose the race as part of their first turn.
Right. So you don't know, and you're looking there going, So you see all the races out there. Now, also, as soon as Craig chooses to say, for example, because Craig's the pointy-eared one, he goes first. As soon as he chooses a race, also, because everything slides up, a new race combos have revealed.
Yeah.
So you can't even really bank on the fact that those 6 races you see in the beginning are going to be the 6 in play at the end of turn 1, or in 5 in play, because it's a 5 per game. Yeah. You might be, but some really great one might come off. Someone might pay the money to get down to that last one because it's so awesome, or they think it's awesome.
Yeah.
And another thing that's interesting, too, is how awesome, quote-unquote, a particular combo isn't just based on that certain combo always rocks. It's based on the current status in the game. Mm-hmm. Certain combos are much better in the early game than they are in the late game. Certain combos are better depending on what territories are open. The sorcerers, for example, are great if there's a lot of active players with single tokens up, but they're awful when everybody's in decline, which we'll get to in a minute. So the good and badness of a race power combo really depends on the situation of the game, the kind of players you have, and what's going on. So it's really not as simple as, oh, the flying sorcerer's rule or this certain combo is awesome. It's not quite that simple. It's not my experience. I played like 11 games, like I said. That number's going to go up by the end of the night. I'll play 13 games or 15 games.
Nice.
Yeah, I just like to exaggerate that. So in the round 1, you just invaded. Now round 2 comes around. So we've all fought once. Now in a subsequent turn, after your first turn, you've got 2 choices. So now it's Rafe's turn. Craig's gone around to point here. Craig again. So Craig's up. First thing Craig does, since he's player 1, he's going to advance our turn counter. So now we're on turn 2. And remember, that's important because that's the timer of the game. In a 5-player game, there's 8 little slots on the board. And when you get to the 8th slot, that's the last turn, and whoever got the most money at the end of turn 8 is the winner.
Or Craig's going to forget to advance the token, and then Russ is going to say, Craig, remember, you have to advance the token.
My groundskeeper kicks in, and I have to.
Groundkeeper.
So in your next turn, you've got 2 choices at the beginning of your turn. You can either attack again, which basically means you pick up all your tokens that are, there's a couple choices here. Most of the time what people will do is they'll pick up all their tokens except for 1 on each territory. So they maintain the territory they own, they pick up all their excess tokens, and now they can just attack again any territory that's adjacent to whatever they've already owned. Okay? Same rules as before. It takes 2 to go in there, plus 1 for each piece of cardboard on the territory, right?
Yep.
Yep.
But you can pick up the last token in a territory and basically yield and return the territory, no longer occupy that territory. Now, the downside of that is you're not going to get money for that territory. But the upside is maybe you really want to invade somewhere else. For example, if you're a hill person and hills give you bonus points, maybe you want to go to a hill. So you basically can do that. So that's one thing. And if you do that, all you do is you attack again. Then after you attack, you regroup by redistributing your tokens however you want, and then you collect your money. Your turn's over. Bam! It's that fast. Boom, boom, boom. Attack. You're done. New turn. Next player goes.
Boom.
Your other choice is to go into decline. So if you're thinking about this carefully and you're following along at home and you're understanding how this token distribution thing works, at some point, if you've got like 11 giants and you take over 10 territories, you've only got 1 more token to fight with. That's not a lot. That's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is you're getting hammered, you're losing guys left and right, who knows why, but eventually it's going to come to the point where you're looking at your attack and you're thinking, I've got nobody to attack with. Yep. I'm out. My race is overextended. I've got nothing. Or you look over at the pile of races and you go, you know what? My giants really aren't doing it for me. I could really go for those flying ghouls right about now. Either way, and this is a big part of the game, is when you go in decline. But at some point, you're going to realize, you know what? The race I have now just isn't cutting it. I need to go in decline. How that works is you take your current race card and its ability and you flip it over in front of you. Then you remove all the tokens from the board that are more than 1. So you reduce your race's current presence on the board to 1 token per square it's in.
Yep.
And you flip them all over to the backside, which is sort of like a little grayed out version of their race. Right. So that shows that they're in decline. And now you're still going to get money for those territories that race controls, but you're not going to be able to attack with that race anymore. So that race is essentially dead to you, but they're just paying their tithe to you, still getting their money. And most of the time, when you flip the cards over in front of you, the power in the race, their racial abilities go away. So if you had humans that were giving you +1 gold for the fields, that +1 gold part's gone. You still got 1 for 1 in the territory, but you lose the +1 gold ability, for example. Now, some races, though, keep their abilities in decline, and that's what makes them kind of cool. Like the dwarves still can mine when they're in decline. The trolls still have their little troll layers in decline, things like that. So there's some things that are kind of neat being in decline. So you put that race in decline. Now, when the turn you go into decline, you skip your attack phase, and instead, you'll pick a new race from the race pool there with the same rules you did in the beginning of the game. So you put money down. If you want to pick the third one down, you got to pay for it, that kind of thing. So you're going to pick a new race. You're going to collect your gold this turn, but you're not going to attack. So you're going to pick your new race. You're going to get your new pool of counters that match your new race, and that's it for your turn.
No,
right?
It's not.
What else is there?
You still get coins for any of your
You collect
decline.
your coin. That's right.
Yep.
So if my giants had 10 territories, and now I'm feeling like I'm spent, I turn my giants over, I flip it over, I pick my new race. Let's say it's Alchemist Elves, and I get my 10 coins for my 10 races characters my giants own. And then I'm done.
Yep.
And this whole decline thing sounds more complicated than it really is, and
Right.
it took me a while because it's counterintuitive when you're playing a game to think, wait a minute, the race I'm starting with is going to die out? That doesn't sound good. That must be
right.
I must be doing something wrong.
Every time I
You're
demo the
not.
game, and I played it like 20 times now, every time I demoed the game, I noticed that the players I was with, the first thing they said was, after we picked our races, was like, okay, we can put those away now, right? Because I'm going to be the flying giants. No, you're the flying giants for now. So what's really kind of cool is you're almost like, it kind of reminds me of the old computer game Populous. You're sort of like the benevolent god of these different races, and you're sort of like leading them in the battle. And what's interesting is then the next turn you play, when you come in, so now let's say I pick those Alchemist Elves and I'm coming back in and my Giants have all depleted. My Giants are still on the table. When I come in, though, it's like a new race is invading the world. I got to come from the edge of the table, right?
Yep.
I can invade my own Giants, but that's kind of dumb because I'm taking my own territory.
You're still getting
right,
gold
so
for that.
I'd rather invade somebody else. Now, of course, someone else is looking at the Giants and they're going, oh, that's pretty juicy now. There's only one guy defending each one, so they might come in and take my Giants out. But anyway, it's a whole new invasion. So it's like, where are the elves hitting the world from? So then you'll have basically two races on table. You got your declining Giants, and you got your brand new Alchemist Elves hitting the board, and you got two races going on at once. But
as I was trying to say before you so rudely interrupted me.
Sorry. You were very rude.
So you have your so when you're a new player and someone's describing this declining thing to you, just put your models, you just put your chits down and know that somehow it's all part of the game, and then you can actually begin to use it as a strategy, which we'll get into later. Right. But I just wanted to point out to players that just know that you're going to play 3 to 4 races throughout the game, and that's the point of the game. It's not you didn't do anything wrong when you're going to decline.
No, that's right. Your race is going to decline, and you probably want to decline them.
You probably do.
Yeah, at some point, probably early.
Not even probably, you do.
Yeah, when you're a first-time player, you're probably going to run to the end, but then as you play a couple times, you're like, ooh, I might want to, depending on what other races happen, you want to jump in.
Although Craig did really well with one race for a really long time.
You did, actually.
Yeah, well, that was a race that actually you can gain tokens where most people are losing them. If you're the skeletons, if you play it right, you can gain 1 or 2 tokens a turn.
Well, and that's the other thing that makes it tricky to decide when to go into decline, because if you've got a good amount of land and you've got good bonuses going on, like one of the bonuses is Merchant. And Merchant's ability basically is you get double points for every land you control. So if I manage to squeak in there and get like 6 territory, I'm pulling 12 gold in a turn.
Yep.
It's hard to make the call to go into decline unless someone's beating me up.
Right.
Because I'm netting. So if you've got a good thing going, you're going to sit on it for a while. And that's what happened with Craig. You had a good block of the territory card of the skeletons, and no one was messing with you.
Right.
So you rode it for all it was worth until we finally started. Wait a minute, he's been getting like 13 coins a turn. We better mess with him. And then you're like, okay, I'm out, and you switched over. And so you basically let your skeletons get their butt kicked. You'd go into decline, and you come in from another side of the board somewhere totally else and start causing trouble.
Flying giants.
Flying giants, right? So that what you've just heard about is basically all the mechanics of the game. You attack. The combat mechanics are that simple with the chits. There's this decline thing. What's wacky about these extra counters is there's like abilities like bivouac, which give you these look like little fortress camps, and you put them down on the table wherever you want in the redeployment phase. But that doesn't make the mechanics very hard to understand. Wherever the bivouacs are, it just costs you one more guy to invade that territory. So it's really simple. You just count the cardboard, and that's what it costs you to go in there, basically, is how simple it is.
Great mechanic.
Very elegant, very simple, but each race feels very different, and the combos are very different. Now, basically, the other rule about declining...
I wish our listeners could have been there last night, though, when I'm like, wait a minute, I'm getting this counting thing wrong, and then Russ describes it to me, and then Craig translates it, and I go... Oh yeah, Craig, I got it now. And then Russ is like, "No."
Russ was angry because
just keeps looking.
I was
at
my very simple math, which was 2 plus the amount of cardboard in the spot, seems simple to me, but I.
Well, but that's what you said.
Craig translated it.
That's
so
what
I
you
could
said,
understand.
and Rafe said, "So you got to meet it," and you were like, "No, you don't have to." And then you got really angry, and I said, "Yes, Rafe, you have to meet it," and he went, "Oh, okay."
I didn't understand it because you don't have to meet it; you have to exceed the number of cardboard on the field by 2.
Rafe's question was, okay, you always need 2.
There we go. I'm glad this is brought up.
Okay, you always need 2 plus 1 for each token.
Right.
You don't have to beat that number. You have to meet that number. 2 plus the tokens. So if there's 3 tokens, and then you need a 5. You don't need a 6.
Yes.
And the funny thing was that somebody else that was playing with us didn't understand and kept arguing against Rafe, and you were misunderstanding both of them. So you were agreeing with the wrong guy, and Rafe was just getting more and more confused.
It really is just 2 plus the amount of cardboard.
Exactly.
So but it's really simple.
It's very simple.
So simple it's confusing, apparently, in some cases.
If you're Russ.
I didn't exempt myself from being confused.
Clearly Rafe was not
3 people were confused there, so.
I think 2.
Nice. All right. So we didn't mention this about declining, though, and this is an important part. You can only ever have, with one exception, you can only have one race in decline at a time.
Right.
So once I've got one race in decline on my new active race, if I decide to make my active race go into decline, my old decline race is totally disappears and any remaining tokens removed from the table. Usually by that time, they're already pretty much wiped out anyway.
Right.
But it's an important nuance in case you decide to really go back-to-back declines or something. It's not usually very wise. Now... how does the game end? Well, the game ends very simply when every time the pointy-eared player goes, which would be Craig in our group, whenever the pointy-eared thing is around him again, he's moving that little turn counter. When the turn counter gets to last round on the board, which is 8 for a 5-player game, you play that last round and it's over. And then, of course, you've got to watch that turn clock because, again, if you go into decline, remember when you go into decline, you kind of miss your turn. So you don't want to go in decline really in turn 8 because all you're doing is losing your special abilities and you're not going to have the turn to use them. So you want to make sure you go in decline with enough time to take advantage of your new race thoroughly. So last turn hits, the game ends, and now we're going to flip over our coins and count it up. And whoever's ever got the most coins is the winner.
Go.
Right? That's pretty much all there is to it.
Yep, that's it. Yep.
And I really think what gives this game its variety, it really gives it its real fun because it is just very simple combat, is the powers and race combinations.
And that replayability is
and that's what gives it
high.
replay. So let's give some examples. Sprinkle a couple in there. What's some examples of some of the fun race combos we saw?
I had heroic skeletons.
How did that work?
And the heroic is awesome because you get 2 little heroic tokens, and those are territories once you've what's it called?
So when you're regrouping.
When you're regrouping, you get to pick 2 territories that actually include heroes that are so ferocious that no one will attack them.
Right.
So that's 2 territories that you get to pick each turn that nobody will be able to take away from.
And what was the skeleton special rule?
The skeleton special rule is for every 2 territories that you take that had at least 1 race token on them.
Right.
You get 1 skeleton token back as you raise dead, basically.
Right. So that's pretty cool.
So I was generating more troops as I was moving forward.
That was one of the reasons you were able to play the skeleton so long, because there was sort of this pass with mountains on either side, and the mountains were so expensive to go through. Craig just put his heroes in between the mountain passes, and I couldn't, because I couldn't attack the heroes. He was bottled in. He was like sort of in the safe zone on the table. I was able to leverage that for a long time. Rafe, what were some of the neat combinations you saw?
Well, what's interesting about that is I don't know if this is the exact name, but I thought of them as diplomatic halflings.
Yep.
Was that
They're diplomat halflings,
Yep, okay. So the diplomat ability let me pick any opponent and say, you can't attack me.
Right.
The halfling special ability is they pop out of hobbit holes, which A, means you don't have to advance onto the middle of the board, and B, you cannot be attacked through the hobbit hole, kind of like Craig's heroes.
Right.
But, so I nestled up on the other side of Craig with the same bottleneck. However, Craig was able to outlast me because of his skeleton special rule. He kept repopulating chits where I eventually
ran out,
overexpanded, and had to go into decline.
Right. Yeah, a big factor is that adding of the 2 numbers together and getting a total. In fact, the Ratmen, Skaven for you 40K fantasy players out there, the Ratmen race, they actually have no special ability because their number on their token is 8. Which is huge.
Really
so them
high.
with certain combos, I think there's like 14 rat tokens in the box. So you can get a lot of rats and really just blow into the board and just do a lot of damage. So it's some really interesting powers. Another power that's interesting is the sorcerer power, which I think if you look at the forms, a lot of people talk about them being overpowered, but you just got to know how they work. These guys, Rafe played them, and I don't think was very impressed with them.
They weren't that impressed.
Their deal is that if they're adjacent to an enemy territory with only 1 active token in it, once per turn, they can turn that guy into a sorcerer for free. But once your opponents know that deal, they'll just put 2 guys there in defense or stay the heck away from you or go in decline, and then the sorcerers pretty much are all that. So
because they can't do that to someone who's in decline.
First time you see them, you don't know how they work. They're like, oh my God. But after that, it's just like, because when we played at Chris's party, we played the very first game of the day was Small World because, again, it's a fast game, so I can get everybody to play it and they know it'd be done quick or wait for people to show up. And then the last game of the night was Small World, and we had players from both. And in the first game, Chris had played the sorcerers and just wiped a lot of people out. We thought it was broken. In the last game, everybody knew how it worked. They just killed him. They just like, kill the sorcerers, whack, he was dead, and that was it. So it can be a detriment to have the perceived best race in the game. There's some really interesting combos. One of my favorites I liked, and Jeremy used this really well last night, was the trolls.
Oh, the trolls.
They get this thing where there's a stack of these little counters that look like little rocky crags, and basically wherever the trolls have been or have models, they build a little troll lair. So you put this piece of cardboard there, which makes it one harder to take over. Well, unlike some of the other races, like the skeletons, when they went into decline, they lost their heroic counters. And the halflings, when they went into decline, they lost their hobbit hole counters. But the trolls keep their troll lairs in decline. So Jeremy got an early good spread on the trolls, and every place when he went in decline were too hard to kill because it had a troll plus a lair. So no one was going there because it was just too much work to get in there. And he was able to sit on that territory for a long time. And actually, Jeremy won that game.
He did because
and
of
I think that troll, he had his trolls almost the entire game.
Yeah, because of that. He also did a pretty interesting orc maneuver, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
His orcs, the orc core race ability is pillage.
Yeah.
which means you get 1 coin for every territory you take over, 1 bonus coin for every territory you take over that had a race in it. You killed somebody.
Yeah.
And so what he was doing, which I thought was a bad tactic, but I was wrong. Or apparently in this case I was wrong.
Well, he was able to do it because of his special
it was
ability.
underground too, right?
They were underground orcs.
So what happens is on the board, in addition to all the cool color that tells you it's a field or a hill, there's also little icons. Some of the icons are like little magic icons, and the wizards get bonus points for owning those. The other one looks like a little cave. It stands for underground. And if you have the underground ability, like his orcs did, the orcs were underground orcs. So there was -1 token from the attack on underground layer, so it'll cost him 1 less to get in there. But second of all, any other underground place is considered adjacent to that territory.
Right.
So he'd invade, right? And then what he would do?
Well, you also takes 1 less token
right,
to invade any space that has a cave.
Right.
So he would collect all of his tokens back. So he'd
give up his orc territories, get them all back.
Yeah, and then he would just start hitting territories. And for some reason, we all kept putting guys.
Because it was cheap. Because he would pick them up, right, and then he'd redistribute back at his home base. So he'd leave just 1 orc there.
Yeah.
We'd be like, "Oh, it's an easy taker," so we'd take it back over like idiots.
Right.
We were just feed it to him.
Yeah.
And then he'd reinvade.
And then get 2 for everything that he did because
he's getting the pillaging.
Exactly.
Right. So that was brilliant. And so it was an interesting strategy there.
So between that and the trolls.
It was that and the trolls, though.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk a little about some of the strategies in the game. So clearly one we've already mentioned is you want to try to maximize your race's combos and abilities.
Yeah.
I want to talk about when you should go into decline.
Okay, go ahead, Rafe. When
All
should
right.
you go into decline?
What I like about this game is it has enough random elements to keep someone like me interesting. This is not a game where you have to worry about if you've got stuck with the wrong race and you do make a bad move, you're done. Nope, that is not the case at all. So, so one of the strategies is when do you go into decline? You don't have to necessarily wait till you've run out of chits, and part of that is how far down you are on the chit counter. So I had a pretty good opening gambit. I thought I did pretty good, and then I was noticing off to the side that somebody wasn't picking humans.
Yeah.
And they started to load up with a lot of money.
Humans too.
What's that?
They were wealthy humans too, so they start out with 7 extra gold.
So wealthy,
on them.
wealthy just gives you no long-term ability, but as soon as you pick them, you get 7 gold free.
Yeah. So I went into decline with my hobbits, probably about the time that I should have, nabbed the humans for the money grab, basically.
Yep.
And then only played the humans for like 2 turns because I wasn't interested in
Not
them.
even.
And then I declined real quick to
Yeah.
get to a better race that I thought was out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course, I didn't win the game either. But
Well, the tricky part about declining is you lose in a turn of attacking.
Right.
yes.
So you can't go and decline too often, or I think that'll catch up with you.
Right. I think that's what happened to you. I think
Yeah.
because Rafe, you said it yourself. You were really in a strong position until you took those sorcerers and ended up locked up north.
Yeah.
Actually, I think the boo-boo, it's hard for people who haven't seen the game, was I realized that the humans had the extra bonus for the farms.
Yes.
And I had a lot of hobbits on farms.
That's true. I did.
That's
you
what
don't want to
stopped
invade
me.
your own land, yeah.
So I expanded in areas I really didn't want to go because I didn't want to take over what I already owned.
I
And
ran into that-
that sort of derailed me.
I ran into that a little bit too, and I think that's a really important strategy when when you're picking your next race. Make sure you don't pick someone whose bonuses are really going to be leveraged by your declining race because you don't want to cannibalize your old race.
That's true.
So that's
Yep.
a big strategy. But you're right. I think
I liked Russ's special power that he had.
Which one?
Which one?
The one that made you get into third power. The doubling of your money.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, the merchant. I always go for, near the end game. I think the great powers. I always look for powers. My strategy's been, and of the 30 games I played, I think I've won about half.
No, come on. You've won like 29, right?
Right.
Of course, they're all against Nicole. So you
I
just
really
beat,
played like 11 games.
That's pretty shameful.
But I haven't really won. I think I've won like 2. Nicole crushes me in this game. This is the kind of game your wife will destroy you at. Okay, I'll just tell you this right now.
Yeah. Okay,
but-
whatever.
Seriously. Kind of like your wife beats you at Ticket to Ride, which is why I hate it. Same sort of thing.
Busted.
He does beat me at Ticket to Ride.
That's why you hate it. Just be honest. No, but the real thing about going into about the end game races, I like to get the ones where, because they double your money near the end of the game, it's really hard to grab any extra territory because everybody's got a race in decline. Everybody's got their main race. They're all beating the crap out of each other. But the ones that double your money, you only need like 3 or 4 lands, and you're getting 8 6, 8 gold or whatever it is.
Yeah, how'd that work for you? You would have come in last if Rafe didn't suck.
I would have actually. I think that saved me from being last. To be honest with you. I think I would have been.
No, you were
way in last.
You were really dredging up some serious gold in the
last two turns. I was getting like 13 or 14. If I hadn't pulled that out, I think I would have really been embarrassingly in last place. Because Rafe was close. I think Rafe and I were only off by a few coins actually. And I think one other thing about strategy is taking ones that are perceived as very high power combos. People will beat you up.
Yeah,
I think there's a definite really cool. What I like about it is even though it's not, it doesn't feel like really Risk because there's no dice or StarCraft or any of that stuff because it's not this really complicated war game. There's definitely the element of you've got to build alliances a little bit or people will just pick on you. Like Jeremy just had this thing where he wanted to beat me up because that was funny.
He was brutal.
He was just like, and it was funny, which was fine with it. And it was a classic kind of thing. Like he was just like, I'm going to beat you up, and I was just fine. And it just
whether
really
it made sense or not,
it really did. He was just like, I'm just playing this the way, and he won the game. So you can't argue with that strategy at all. But he definitely owned you. So there was a definite metagame. There's definitely you could try the alliance thing. You could try whatever you want.
Well, what I liked, which is not like Risk, is it's not like once somebody gets, Africa, it's all over. It's not like that at all.
No.
Because of the reinvading. Now, the other thing we figured out, because of Jeremy's trick, which I had to look up, when you're taking your guys back off the table, if you want to strip a territory completely and come back, I thought you had to leave at least one territory that you already invaded to keep attacking back from. But that's not true. You can actually pick up all your racial tokens and then reinvade like you're new again, if you want to. Which I should have done earlier because I was I had all my guys bunched up. I had a lot of tokens up. They were kind of trapped.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't decline because I couldn't see a way out. But I should just pick them all up and just attack from the territory.
Yeah.
That would have been the smart move. So that's an interesting option too. So it's really hard to get, like you mentioned, Rafe, it's hard to get boxed in and totally out of the game.
Yeah.
Right.
And because the numbers are hidden, some guy that's doing really, really well with his first race combo, he can get nailed later with a bad combo or just players decide to lock him out or, whatever. So it's hard to... But I think the
funny part about Jeremy that was hilarious is he would only attack you because you'd be like, "Oh, look, there's a skeleton right there, Jeremy." He'd go, I'm going to attack you now.
That's true.
Right.
The Jedi mind tricks were not working.
Yeah, no, they weren't.
Jeremy is a Toydarian.
He was.
Right.
He wasn't having none of it.
And then he's like, well, I'm going to pick up all my tokens and attack like this. You're like, really? I just don't think that's a good strategy.
And he won. So clearly, my analysis at that point, after my 35 games, was not sufficient to fully comprehend the depths of strategy in this game. So anyway, that is basically all there is to say about the actual component, the strategy. I mean, the game is simple.
About Craig's strategies that he might like?
Well, any strategic commentary there, Craig, before we go into summations?
Strategic commentary? Well, it really does pay off to get certain combos at the beginning. I think the skeletons were a great combo at the beginning, and I think the trolls are a great combo at the beginning.
I thought my diplomatic halflings was a good combo at the beginning.
Well, I think the diplomatic anything is a good it's a good thing to have, but
so you can defend the obvious attacks.
You think mid-game, okay.
Right, yeah. I mean, the skeletons are great because you can spread out really quickly, and then even if you're in decline, it's going to take everybody else a long time to chew through all those skeletons, and you're going to pick up a little gold here or there as they go. The trolls are great because, as Russ said, they're very difficult to dig out once they're in there, even when they're in decline. So it's extremely unlikely that somebody's going to take all that for you.
Especially if you get them in the mountains like Jeremy did.
Exactly.
Now, the mountains +1, the trolls forts +1, and then the decline troll there. So it's a 5er.
You need
to get
5 to get in there.
Which is half of whatever you get, even with a new batch. Right?
Yeah, so I think that you've got to be looking at your combos as you go. And like you said, you've always got to have an eye on that rank of new combos that's coming up. See if there's something that will complement what you've got, and that's one of the main things that'll dictate when you go into decline.
And there's been moments in the 45 games I played, there's been moments where, like, I really want that race, I'm going to go in, and then someone right in front of me just goes into decline before I expect them to. It's like, no, what are you doing? That was my race.
Yep.
So there's that little element too, which is fun.
I like that little bidding part because, again, it reminds me of Power Grid. You're going to go with a wind power plant. You're going to switch to nuke. What are you going to do?
Right.
It's cool.
So let's sum up here. Let's talk about our final thoughts. Craig, why don't you take us out again in the beginning? Why don't you go? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts...
Without peeking at my bullets.
I'm not looking at anybody's bullets. Jeez. My final thoughts are I really enjoyed the game. It's fun. It's almost a little bit like Munchkin because it sort of harkens back to your fantasy roots.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got all those different archetypal fantasy races, and you've got all these archetypal abilities, but now they're in new and unique and fun and wacky combinations. I liked it that there was a combat element, so it's not like Agricola, but...
Right. There's very little farming.
Although there is some.
Well, yeah, the humans are farmers.
Yep.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not random at all. You know exactly what you're going into.
Right.
Yep.
It's not like somebody goes, oh, you could do that, but I have this card that screws you.
Right.
So you go in eyes wide open. And, yeah, sometimes you might want to gamble on that die roll and say, you know, I've got 2 left. I'm going to go for the mountain with your troll in it. And yeah, and it's like it gives that little
but you know what,
adrenaline boost.
The die felt to me more like it was letting me do something I shouldn't be able to do more than it was denying me something I should have made.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it doesn't feel like you're failing a role you
sort
needed.
of opens more options.
It's not a depressing die roll. It's a fun
lucky
adrenaline.
not, I got
Exactly,
screwed. You know what I mean? It's just
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to take a chance, and if
Right.
it doesn't work out, then it shouldn't have worked out because you'd only had one guy left
And
anyway.
you don't lose the guy.
Exactly.
So it's really no loss.
Yep. I found that it didn't have very much at all that was frustrating.
Right.
Which is key for me because I can get frustrated easily.
I'd noticed that about you.
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
I think that's a very false criticism. What? Why is he looking at me funny, right?
Maybe some people say whiny, but no.
No.
Ouch.
No.
Both of you.
What? I'm being loving.
What?
Anyway.
So it's not frustrating, which is good. I think it's good.
There's nothing in there that's going to be like, oh, I'm going to put this together and I've got this whole combo and then, oh, Russ did this one thing that's going to kill me.
Right.
It's more like, and as you say, your metagame issue. It's like, so, Jeremy, you could take out my one guy that's on top of that one piece that you really need, or look, Craig's over there in a totally useless space.
Didn't he just pull 15 gold last turn? Someone better deal with him now.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, even and to Craig's point on that, even if you want the diplomatic wizards, you might be a little frustrated, but there's still plenty cool races below that.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And I mean, really the only frustrating element would be, like Russ said, you're like really waiting for those flying giants and you've got a big plan for them. And then Rafe takes the flying giants before your turn. Like,
that's not really frustrating as much as the screw your neighbor element, right?
Right.
Exactly.
No,
which is good. Yeah.
I don't see it as a screw your neighbor element. It's like Rafe really wants those flying giants because they're going to be really good for him too.
Right.
I think that's the money mechanic, Craig, because you're like, okay, well, I'll take these and I get some 3 coins besides.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's an extremely well thought out, elegant. Did we just get a message from Orbit?
I don't know. Rafe, you still there?
Yeah, what was that?
Cool. I don't know. I don't know what that was.
I don't know. I think we're trying to be contacted.
Someone's paging us from outer space.
That's right.
All right.
Can you please tell them that we're busy?
So how would you rate it?
I'm gonna go. This is a tough one. I'm gonna say 3+.
3+. All right.
Yeah.
I want to go next.
You want to go next? Okay. So Rafe's gonna jump ahead. Go ahead, Rafe.
Because you guys changed my mind a little bit.
Okay.
I was gonna say everyone's saying, "Oh, it's replayable," and I was thinking it's not replayable. Yes, you get the random race combos. I get that, but to me. But you changed my mind. At first, I was thinking, it's the same game. You get the chits, you conquer it, you get the money, game over. But where you made me change the mind was thinking, is the troll combo beatable? So now I want to play again to see, okay, so I got the trolls and I hole up in the mountain, because we were all just talking a little while ago how powerful that was. I'm thinking, but would it have been that powerful if we decided to take them out?
Right.
If each, which would have been fun, and that made me go, oh, now I want to play again. So because of that, I changed back to thinking it is replayable, and I don't really have anything further to say, about what I like about the game and theme and everything. So I'm just going to give it a rating, which is I'm going to give it a 3+ with a reroll.
Nice.
Wow.
Okay.
And that factors in the components, the box, the now convinced replayability, the cool fantasy theme.
Nice.
It's Risk, but it's fast, very fun. Social game, no real drag time. A lot of good thumbs up there.
Good. That's both 2 favorable reviews. I pretty much right there with both of you. I think what I like about it, in addition to all the things you've stated, is I think it's a great kids or family game.
I forgot that.
It's very it's an abstract game when you think about it. At its core, if you look at the mechanics of this game, it's really not. It's just like advanced checkers when you think about it. I mean, there's no, there's no dice. There's no like my units do different. I mean, your units do different things, which is sort of funky.
How does it play 2-player, Russ?
It plays awesome. With 2 players, it feels more like, and I was going to mention this earlier, it plays more like really advanced checkers. You're thinking about how to beat your opponent. So there's this abstract game that's covered in theme, but it's really a very abstract game. And what I think what makes it good for kids is it's a critical thinking game, and there's no reading. On the abilities cards, they're all just symbols. Now, there's reading on the reference sheet, but as anybody with young kids knows, those guys can absorb rules like there's nobody's business. My 5-year-old, when I was 6-year-old nephew, he was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon. He couldn't read the cards. He just memorized all the abilities by looking at the cards.
Yep.
So you could easily memorize the abilities, and the symbols are they're like mnemonic devices. You'll figure them out real quick. So I think it's great that way. My wife loves it. Again, I think it's a great gateway. It's an awesomely good gateway game. I think it really is. People will just enjoy it. I think it's like they have that Carcassonne sort of weirdness to it. It's not a war. No one's going to, don't tell them it's a war game. It doesn't really feel like a war game either, even though you could sort of compare it to Risk.
I don't know. Do you think, like Craig, do you think your father-in-law wouldn't be a little weirded out with the fantasy element?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because it's sort of silly fantasy. It's not like dark orcs. It's sort of like crazy.
I mean, I think Karen would, just because she's got such an irrational...
She liked Battlestar, though, and stuff. I bet she's going to like this.
Yeah, I don't know. See, I hope she does. I would love it if she did. I think it's a great game. But
I'd be curious if she liked it.
too, yeah.
What I like about it as a gamer myself, I think it's a great conquest-style game with with virtually no luck, and it handles 5 players quickly. I mean, when's the last played a 5-player conquest game in like an hour? It just doesn't happen.
Right. Oh, the speed of the game is incredible.
It's great. And really, there's nothing. It's such a fast turn. There's really very little downtime, unless you got someone who's. A couple of times we had players who were like really thinking, okay, I can do this, and they're over analyzing it. And there's some analysis process that can happen, but it's really there's no excuse for that. It's just the guy's really thinking. I mean, and I agree with your final assessment there, Rafe. I think the race powers and the combos keep it fresh every time. I think it's going to be fun. It's like you're going to be going, okay, when that troll guy, when he comes in, we're going to take him out because Jeremy won last time. And you're going to see the trolls and go, oh, yeah, because the troll, the fort is their racial ability. But what if they're like berserk trolls and they take over half the table?
That's brutal.
Because berserk lets you roll the night before you attack and do it. So who knows? I mean, you never know what's going to happen. And then you might have that plan to everybody gang up on the troll guy, but then some other really juicy thing could come along. It's what makes it sort of interesting. Because when we played on Saturday, we were like, you got to kill the sorcerers. Now, the last few games, the sorcerers.
So you've played it, 55 times now?
62, I think, easily.
62? And so since I've only played it once, I didn't think it's replayable. You obviously think it's replayable.
Oh, yeah, really. Honestly, Nicole and I got it on Thursday before Chris's party. Nicole and I played it Thursday night. Yep. She played it with me twice Friday night because it's a half-hour game for 2 players. Boom, boom, play
I thought she played you like 20 times.
Well, yeah. And then on Saturday, I played it twice more. I played it like 2 or 3 times both nights at the Game Castle. It's just to kind of get, because it's so fast, people are happy to sit down and try it out. It's like bang, it's just real quick, especially 2 players. And now people are like comparing, like on the Game Castle last Tuesday, they're like, hey, we ended the game with 130 gold on one guy. Is that really high? How did he do that? And we're like talking about how you get that number. Because it's such a mathematical game. There's not a lot of luck. It's like, how did he get to that number? It's crazy. Yeah. What did your opponents have to let you do? So anyway,
what's your 2 different ratings?
So here we go. One other thing, I think it scales awesomely. That's what else I liked about it.
I think that's built. I mean, the fact that you've got a totally different map
for each player count.
Yep. Is huge.
And I love the components, and I love everything about it, and it's fast. So my ratings are. I don't even have to give 2 ratings for this game. I think this game will appeal.
This might be a first.
I think it'll appeal to wargamers. I think it'll appeal to casual gamers. I'm giving it a 2+.
Wow.
2+. Haven't met a person yet that hasn't enjoyed it out of my 85 times playing. So
that's huge.
That's my rating for Small World. Any other comments about that?
Silas Marner almost never gives up a 2+.
There you go, Silas Marner.
First, this episode's dedication. Hey, Craig and the gang. Alon from Toronto here, inspired by Craig's work of radio drama on the Jever Notice from episode 29. I want to give a shout-out to some artistic collaborators of my own. To the Alexander Singers and Players, my community theater group, big props, halberds specifically, on our production of Yeoman of the Guard. And to Justin, the bitter guy, to whom I have recommended this podcast on numerous occasions. Now I'll know if you're listening. Did you ever notice how we spend so much of our lives trying to be taken seriously, and then out of the blue comes along someone who takes us just a little bit too seriously? Of course, there are people who can never be taken too seriously because they take themselves way too seriously to start with. But most of us want to find a happy middle ground. See, this whole thought process started churning in my brain months and months ago upon reviewing with Russ and Rafe our latest listener numbers. Who were we, I thought, for all of these people to listen to us and care what we thought? We're just an IT guy, a bankruptcy lawyer, and a high school teacher, for God's sakes. We don't take ourselves seriously, so why should anybody else? This moment of crisis was very reminiscent of the worst stage moment of my acting career. I had been cast as General Zaroff, the super amazingly cool bad guy, completely unbiased opinion there, in a stage adaptation of the ultimate gamer's gamer short story, The Most Dangerous Game, by Richard Connell, first published in 1924. I'm sure most of you are aware of the story, but for those of you who have been living under a literary rock all your lives, the plot follows a New York big game hunter who's on vacation and he falls off a yacht in the Caribbean and swims to an island owned by a Russian aristocrat whose lifelong obsession with hunting has led him to this isolated retreat where he tricks people into crashing on the island and then hunts them down like animals. A great game if you think about it. Anyway, opening night of this play, and I'm on stage. Things are going great. I'm having the time of my life. It was staged very avant-garde, and during a pivotal scene where I reveal to my prey the purpose of the whole island, I have my back to the audience to make it more dramatic, and I sit at this massive dining table that's perpendicular to the stage. I had a huge monologue about hunting and the most dangerous prey, whether it's tigers or elephants or what have you, and then I talk about humans. Well, opening night, while I was delivering this monologue with my back to the audience, my brain started to wander. All of a sudden, while my mouth was on autopilot, I started to think how odd it was that an entire theater behind me was filled with people I didn't know who had all paid a pretty penny to do just that. They were all staring at the back of my head, listening to every word I said. How weird is that? And then I thought about how shy I had been throughout high school and how people who knew me then would never have believed where I was now. I just kept delving deeper and deeper into the incredulity of my current activity. Obviously, I snapped back to the present moments later to realize in horror that my mouth had stopped and there was dead silence. The guy playing my prey, elevated at the end of a raked table and facing the audience, was staring at me with this rictus death mask grin on his face, his eyes endless pools of abject horror as he stared at me, begging me to continue. Eventually, I brought the scene back in line, trying to figure out what my next line was, and with a jerk of my head, I sent the poor guy racing across the stage to a new location, and we continued the scene. I felt awful afterwards. It was the worst professional moment of my entire career, like I said. But really, I got the best reviews I'd ever received from that night. And so there I was, amazed that anyone would take me seriously, and then bam! Internally at least, undeserving of that serious attention. That was the night I learned that no matter what you think, other people are going to take you seriously even if you do not. It was also the night when my harshest critic ever, after myself of course, walked up to me and said, "Wow, you really are an actor." So go figure. Anyway, how does that connect to our little podcast? Well, it's like this. We're just three schlubs doing this because it seemed fun, and it turned out we were right. We're learning on the fly, and almost all of you have been great about that. We're sort of mild victims of our own success now, as people are expecting more of us based, I think, on the quality of what we're doing now. But know what? It's still quite possible to take us a little too seriously. It's happened a couple times now, and it's always jarring to me. It's usually people who don't get the not-so-horrible humor. I don't mean those of you who get it and don't think it's funny, because that's a totally valid point of view, one that I've shared on more than one occasion, I assure you. But the people who really don't get it, they don't understand it, the satire. Take Ever Notice, for example. Sometimes it's just meant to be funny. Sometimes it is satire, and there's a grain of truth to it. And yes, on one or two occasions, there's been a little bit of a whine in it. But ultimately, it's supposed to be just a little dash of not too horrible humor at the end of the podcast. And because it's satire, you've got to think, I'm a gamer too. If you take it too seriously, you're not going to get the joke. Never mind think it's funny. Another example would be the interaction between Russ, Rafe, and myself. Russ and I have been friends for, more years than I'm going to say here, since junior and senior high school. Russ, Rafe, and I have been friends for almost 15 years. Would you like to see the list of people I've fallen out of communication with over that amount of time? If I didn't like these guys a lot, I wouldn't be talking to them anymore. Never mind voluntarily spending so much extra time with them because of a podcast. I've traveled around Europe with Rafe. Russ and I have been through trials and tribulations galore. We're as caustic to each other off the air as on, and that's the way our group of friends rolls. I'm willing to bet it's how more than a few of your groups roll as well. See, the more people who didn't get the shtick, the more we've woven it into the show, just like we would with our friends around here. Many of you have seen that and responded with some hilarious emails, discussions, and, dare I say it, even Facebook entries. Those of you who continue to feel that we're being mean to Hollywood, and honestly, which of you out there would let a close friend of yours get away with something as outrageous as picking his own nickname? Well, take a deep breath and don't take us too seriously, because honestly, you're not getting it. And I gotta tell you that starting with episode 32, it's probably going to be back to normal, because it is so much harder to do this the unnatural way. But it doesn't mean we don't like each other, and doesn't mean we don't respect Rafe. We love Rafe. He's great. He serves amazing purposes in the podcast, and he's really funny, and he's fun to hang out with. But every now and then, every one of us is going to say something that the other two are not going to let go, and you guys are just going to have to live with it. So I guess that's it for this episode. I'm done. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Achievement unlocked! You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by either emailing us at info@the d6generation.com or by posting in our official D6G episode thread at the top of the DACA discussions forum on DACA.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.
The theme from When Wives Attack comes from the soundtrack of The Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, courtesy of Flying Frog Productions, and is a composition of Mary Beth Magalanes.
It's a world of slaughter, a world of tears. It's a world of dopes and a world of fears. There's too much that we share, so it's time to beware. It's a small world after all. 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 It's a small world. There are 14 races and one dragon, but there's not enough room for everyone. As the empires expand and the troops take your land, it's a small world after all. It's a world of wizards, a giants and tiny dwarfs, ghouls, elves, skeletons, sorcerers, and tritons. It's a small world after all. 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 It's a small, small world. It's a world of halflings, a world of trolls. It's a world of humans who have no souls. Full of Amazon babes, wrapped and digging your graves. It's a small world after all. 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 It's a small, small world.
Small World, a fantasy board game of conquest, designed by Philippe Caertz and published by Days of Wonder. Come get some. This relative hilarity was brought to you by Myriad Games on behalf of friendly professional game stores everywhere. The preceding in no way represents the actual enjoyment of playing Small World from Days of Wonder. We promise the actual game is way less painful than listening to us. Subscribe to our wide variety of shows through myriadgames.com and be sure to leave us a review on iTunes to claim your free pair of Myriad dice.